Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. However you happen to be watching and or listening to this, I want to welcome you to the latest episode of the Gaming Circle podcast. Episode 96, I would consider this the Endgame episode. Now, yes, as usual, it seems like whether we like it or not these days, the technical gremlins just will not leave us alone, but we will not let this thing get us down. I am, of course, your host, Mr. K. Asante, TKO Asante on Xbox, PlayStation, all those places that you and I communicate. And, of course, I am joined this week and every week by the man, the myth, the legend, the one who should have been part of that 100 stream limit, Mr. Everborn Saga. What's going on, sir?
What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Testing 1 2 1 2. People in the chat, if you can hear us, please let us know that we are audible and you folks can hear us because them technical gremlins have been eating us for lunch.
Yeah, I'm not. It's so bad. I'm not even gonna give the smoke to Mr. K. Asante today.
See, it's so bad. I don't even deserve the smoke.
That's how you know. That's how you know it's messed up.
That's how you know it's going down. But no, we're not going to let this get us down. We're not going to let this get us down. We had a great show planned, and then, of course, technical gremlins got in the way. But we're still going to keep it up. We're still going to keep it
moving. It was the FTC.
It was the FTC that did it to us, of course. It was the FTC that did it to us. But, okay, so that you folks know, and I know folks are already in the chat, thank you guys so much for checking us out. Thank you so much for adapting and working with us, because I know we were in another stream and now we're in another stream here. You know, yes, we're gonna work out them technical gremlins. I think it might be a time to get away from OBS. What do you guys think? I think it might be time to investigate some other tools because I just don't like the way OBS works on my machine. Both the old machine and the new machine still keep acting up, but before we even get started, let's first and foremost welcome some folks that are in here, and let's at least address some super chats because even on the old link, there were some super chats that I definitely want to make sure I address. Unfortunately, you won't be able to see it on your screen, but Mr. Joanna Dark was in here bright and early with a $5 super chat saying, "Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning, gents," he says. You know Kratos and Mario, what Kratos and Mario have in common, right? They both are responsible for killing Sonic. Everborn Saga, your knees, can your knees take this heat? Question mark.
That's fine. That's fine. Hey, did you know that Sonic Superstars and Mario Wonder are coming out within 3 days of each other?
Bro, we will talk about that because I seriously think we need to have a conversation about that one. I think we've been doing these bets for a while now. It's all been hilarious and fun. This is the bet of bets, my friend. But before we continue, though, let me acknowledge another super chat that came in before we got into this space right here. This was, let's see, Mr. MDJ. Thank you so much for the $2 super chat. Thank you for being here. I hope he's in this chat as well. He was in the other one. He left us $2 super chat and said, Phil said, on my mama, and them, God is coming to PS5. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. We will talk about that as well because I think that's hilarious.
And Mr. Weingarten tried to do some negotiating on behalf of Sony.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
Listen, man, I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been some stuff, bro. It's been some stuff. Like the last 2-3 days that this thing has been going on, I'll be honest. Work has not been getting done as it normally has been. I've been like riveted, boy. I've been riveted.
It got to a point where I was leaving it on in the background during meetings. I'm like, listen, the news is on in the background. Like,
yep. Don't worry about it. Just go with it. It's fine. All right. And we also have Mr. Mr. Gerald Mack, the man who supports, the man who knows you ain't doing ish on a Saturday morning. So come and support us. Thank you so much, Gerald Mack.
So we got to get you back on the show, Gerald Mack. And by the way,
for sure.
Personal shout out to Ben Harrison, who is this is his first time listening live.
Oh, excellent. That's great. Thank you so much for being here. Mr. Gerald Mack leaves us a $5 super chat and says, just a little support to the channel. Salute, gentlemen. Thank you so much, Gerald Mack. We appreciate you. Bro, I got some things working in the background, Gerald. I ain't going to tell you. I ain't going to show you. But maybe one of these days we'll have a surprise for you and you'll be very, very, very happy. We'll see what we do there. And finally, for now, we have Sith Lord in here. The man Sith Lord is in here with a $2 super chat and said, I felt Microsoft has a W. but it isn't over until it's over.
Yes, do
Absolutely,
not
sir.
count your chickens before the eggs hatch,
Absolutely.
because anything could happen. And this is not a matter of finding on the merits. It is
Yep.
all going to be the judge applying existing laws on the books and saying whose
Yep.
case comports to what laws that better fit this situation. So the
Hmm.
judge may not even, the judge doesn't have a dog in the race. She's just going to decide on whatever laws are there. So it may not even have anything to do with how terrible the FTC's case is. So we will see.
Yep. And as we always say, and as the man Hogue Law has said, and we always stand behind him on that one. No accounting for crazy. So we shall still see. But that is a very good sentiment, good point to make. Now, usually this is about the time where we switch to the games we have been playing. But I got to be honest with you, this week I have not been playing anything. Well, okay, I won't say that. That's not fair. That's not true. Besides on this show, being a co-host with you, Everborn, I enjoy playing different things, sharing different things, letting folks know, hey, this is really cool. You should try it. I did play one thing that I thought was super interesting, but of course, them technical gremlins got the better of us. So I will show a trailer of the thing that I played rather than gameplay footage. But before I do, I will ask you, Mr. Everborn Saga, what have you been playing, sir?
I have been testing things out on the ROG Ally, but mostly it's been Planet of Lana and Streets of Rage 4. And obviously there's the Tears of the Kingdom, but I don't think I'm making any headway. I just feel like I'm running around in Tears of the Kingdom fighting people, like building stuff, but I haven't even moved to the second boss, and I'm just hours in it, and I don't know. I don't know if I'm not bored, but I feel like it's so much of a sandbox that the story is sort of, it almost feels optional. I don't know. I just feel like I'm meandering in the game, and that's not
Okay.
anything against the game. I think that's probably a positive for the game, but it is, it is.
So it's more looks than anything else, you think? Because I hear people talk about it a lot.
It's the loop that is just kind of promotes just doing stuff that have nothing to do with what you're supposed to be doing, and you can get lost, and you can have all kinds of hours in this game. I'm well over 30 hours. The last time I checked, it was 30 hours, and I've played a bunch of hours since the last time I checked, and I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna go. This could just be tempting of Diablo or whatever, but I really feel like I'm just not doing anything, and I'm just running around. Again,
Interesting.
kudos to the loop, but
Interesting. Okay.
I gotta get focused. I have to make a plan. Okay, this is it. This is what I'll say, and then we move on. Every time I play Tears of the Kingdom, I feel like I have to make a plan of what I want to get done that day. Meaning, do I want to move towards the next temple? Do I want to do a thing? But the problem with that is then it feels like I'm clocking in the work. It doesn't feel like I am like.
So are you saying that after all the capping that you have done for the magnificence that is Tears of the Kingdom, you are now possibly not going to beat that game?
I didn't say that. But maybe maybe I go deal with the campaign in Diablo and come back to it. I don't know.
By the way, real quick, Michelle Alexandrian here saying she played 50 hours of Breath of the Wild, and the only hot one story beat was no dungeons. And of course, thank you again, Michelle Alexander, for the super sticker. We appreciate the $2 super sticker. Yeah, it's one of those games, Breath of the Wild and the new iteration of Zelda, that just seems like you can just people talk about you can live in this game, right?
That's what I feel like.
Most
games
say you can live in it. This game, you really can live in it, to the point where it becomes almost detrimental to its goals. You don't want to do what they want you to do. You just want to kind of be there every once in a while, look around, and just move on. Like, it's too immersive sometimes. Is that the case?
I think so. Now he's saying not beating it. I will have you know.
Welcome to the man, Slow-Mo Backslap, the man formerly known as Sonic Backslap.
I have beaten every Zelda game including the remakes and the stuff in the Game Boy, since Link to the Past. Now, Breath of the Wild, I got to the end and I never fought Ganon because whatever, I didn't do it, and then I ended up giving the game to my brother because that was the only physical game that I got on
you
the
gave
Switch.
me a lot of slander for getting to the very last boss of Elden Ring and not beating it, and then you got to the last boss.
Yeah, but you're not an Elden Lord. Beat him? Right?
Yeah, but you also didn't beat Elden.
You're still not an Elden Lord. I've beaten Ganon at least 10, 15 times in my life. Right? You've never been an Elden Lord. So the point is,
you know what? I'm gonna beat that game and just record it just for your purposes. How about that?
I'm already a Lord. I'll say welcome to the club.
And then move on.
It won't be anything. We've already done these things. Slow-mo and Sycamore have done it like 3-4 times.
Sure they have. Oh, okay. So in this instance with Slow-mo, then you give him the respect due him.
I mean, he's done it. It was the I gotta give credit where credit is due.
Understood. But salute to the 108 people that are in here already. Oh, you guys are amazing. Please hit that like button if you haven't done so yet. Please subscribe if you're new here. This is awesome to have so many people just jump in as soon as we jump on online. Even switching streams and you folks still show up. That's absolutely great. This is great. Thank you guys so much. But yeah, you were saying.
Yeah, there are two, and I'm not even going to include Sonic in here because there were some Sonic
Damn,
stinkers.
Eric, come on now. it ain't that deep. Damn.
There are some Sonic stinkers out there that I missed. I'm trying to catch up with them now, right? Because that
did you call them Sonic stinkers?
Sonic had some bad games. Stop it.
Everborn Saga, Everborn
Sega. Sonic had. This is not news. There are some bad games in the catalog.
Ladies and gentlemen, please clip that because we're gonna have to hear that one over and over again a couple times.
You and I both just found out about Lost World Sonic, right? Amazing game, and we just missed it because it came out in an era where Sonic wasn't doing its thing.
Stinker, sir. That's not a
no. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying there are Sonic games that I've missed. And I'm trying to catch up with them, right?
Yeah.
So, but there are two franchises that I don't miss, and when they come out, the campaigns get beat, and that is Halo and Zelda.
Yep. Okay.
So,
okay.
The Tears of the Kingdom will get beaten, but the question is, will I go and do Diablo first and come back?
Actually, no. The question of Tears of the Kingdom getting beaten is, if Tears of the Kingdom will get beat, the actual question is, will Breath of the Wild get beat first?
So here's the problem.
How do you beat the sequel before you beat the first one?
I'm at the end. What do I need to know?
Beat the boss, sir. Beat the boss.
Okay.
Let's move on.
So one thing I do want to get into, one thing I am actually going to be playing later today. I don't know if you know this, but it was Sonic's 32nd birthday this week.
Yes, it is. And now Frontiers
also shares a birthday with Victor Alistine in the chat.
Salute to you, Victor. I'm sorry. I know.
Sorry, not Victor Alistine. Lucius Augustus, who goes by a different name on Twitter, and I have to remember that this is who in the Twitter DM. But the point is, so Sonic's 32nd birthday, and there's a big update that came out to.
Hey man, why not, Sycamore?
When you want to come, say the word.
Go. We about the community here, sir. You are definitely part of said community. Let us know. Let's go. Continue,
sir. There's a big update that came out for Sonic Frontiers.
Yep.
And they've added the spin dash.
Have they? Did they add the spin dash?
They added it in the newest update.
I did see they added some kind of aesthetic stuff to it, but I didn't think they added the spin dash. Really? Interesting. Okay, so Sonic Frontiers technically is better.
You sound wild right now, by the way.
Oh, do I? Testing 1 2. How wild do I sound? Is that
no? Like
audio, please.
You sound like a robot.
Am I botting, ladies and gentlemen?
Yeah.
Okay.
You sound like an Xbox apologist.
Fantastic. I will log out and I will log back in.
All right. Well, you guys got to deal with me for a little bit. So yeah, so I have to go back to Sonic Frontiers because I want to see what the see how they implemented the spin dash, because I understood why, and I saw that quote, Sith Lord. Sonic 4 was a stinker, right? Sonic '06 was a stinker, right? These things happen, right? But yeah, I was saying I want to when Frontiers came out, I kind of knew why they didn't do the spin dash, just because of the way the game was designed. So if they found a way to implement it and make it work, I'm going to be interested to see that. Okay. Because they have this sort of.
By the way, how do I sound? Testing 1 2.
No, you sound good. You sound good. Risk It for the Biscuit says the Everborn Sonic Show. Listen, you want to start up a new show.
Never that,
you got this
sir.
whole PC show. With...
Don't put that evil into the universe, sir. Shout out to Risk It for the Biscuit.
All right, let's move on. But needless to say, it is wild that a new 2D Mario and a new 2D Sonic are coming out in the same week.
And
2023 is just the GOAT.
Before we move on, sir, I want to talk just briefly, because then I'll share what I've been playing, and then we'll move on to the stories proper. But we got to do this, okay? We did God of War versus Sonic, and we saw what happened there. It is what it is. Everborn Saga will defend himself for the rest of his life, but it is what it is. Those who remember that bet remember what happened there. But here we are, right, where we have two legends of the game, both reinventing themselves, showing you something you've never seen before, but they're not coming out in glitzy AAA fashion. They're coming out in 2.5D, almost glitzy, but they're also doing it in a platforming fashion. Like, it's almost like both of them had the same idea. Hey, let's reinvent ourselves in an almost crazy AAA fashion. Let's do 2.5D, just like what do you call it? Prince of Persia did.
Yeah, but this isn't new for Mario. You have to remember
I know
Super Mario Deluxe.
Yes. Well, personally, when I saw Wonder, I knew exactly what they were doing, because the minute I saw Mario Maker, the first one, I knew there was a huge change for Mario coming. There's no way you give the consumer the toolkit and then make another Mario exactly the same way they've known it. The minute you give them the toolkit, I know you're about to change it up drastically. And that's what we got here, right? With the animation changes and all of that, right? But my main focus to bring this up is this, unlike any other time, is the unique time to make that 2023 Mario versus Sonic bet. Are you willing to go for it, Mr. Everborn Saga? They're both coming out days apart. They're both on on the key platforms, right? Yes,
no, they're not. Be on no, they're not. Mario's only on Switch.
True. Mario's only on Switch. True.
Sonic
how about
will be
this?
Everywhere.
How about this? And the chat, you guys can work with us. We can figure this out. We want to do a bet on only Nintendo sales. Who wins?
No, I'm not doing that. Why not? Because Nintendo is going to push their own game right to the top. This is, by the way, the same thing that Google got in trouble for, and Amazon for putting their own products at the top of the search results. No. You're not going to get me like that.
Hold on, Everborn. Actually, at the end of the day, this might be in your favor, because true, you are right. You are 100% correct that Nintendo will pimp their product above all. True. But while pimping their product, they'll pimp it on the Switch. While, again, just like you thought God of War had you thought Sonic had a chance against God of War, Sonic has a chance against Mario because it's on everything. It's still on everything. It's on PS5. It's on Xbox. It's on the old Xbox. It's on Switch. It's everywhere. It's on PC compared to Mario only on Switch.
Yeah, here's the problem. Unlike God of War.
Come on, Paris. Don't do that to me.
Paris
I want
is
him
correct.
to take the bait.
No. I'm not taking the bait because do you know how many copies?
Paris, I don't know if you know, but he took the bait last time on Sonic Frontiers versus God of War.
That was a sound bet.
Oh, please. It
Sonic
wasn't
is
sound because
a
you lost.
bigger character than Kratos, and
And still he got murked.
I stand on that
He got
word.
murked. Still he did.
He
He
has a
got murked.
longer legacy. He will be around longer
And
than
got murked
Kratos.
like a fool. He got murked like
All
a
right.
fool, even though Kratos is not as powerful. See,
Now
I need you to take this bait, sir, because
I'm not taking the bait. I'm not taking the bait
than that Kratos thing you did, because that one was hilarious to me. This one is close, in my humble opinion, because I'm genuinely excited for Sonic, and the key here is Sonic. People will be able to play it on all of their handhelds. ROG Ally gang, y'all be playing this.
I'm not taking the bait.
Xbox gang, y'all
Mario
be playing
Kart
this.
did damn near 50 million or more, right? This this is not gonna happen. This is not gonna happen. I won't even take this bet.
See, look. Sith Lord is with you. Come on. No, see, he's with you. But I was hoping he'd be with you saying, no, Sonic will lose. No, he's saying, no, Sonic will lose. But
listen,
all right, I guess it's not worth
Admiral Akbar was in the chat telling me it's a trap.
True. In this instance, I guess you've learned your lesson. Yeah.
I did not learn anything. If this original bet was with Mario, I would have said that. And that has nothing to do with the fact that Mario's an inferior character. But Mario is... I said what I said. No, sir. But
no, sir.
Kratos versus Sonic.
Sir.
Sonic had a fighting chance if Sony didn't cheat and start bundling stuff.
There is none of that, sir. There will be no slander of that sort, sir. That is not allowed. Paris again saying he played Sonic Superstars and it's great, and head to head with a 2D platformer, not even close. Talk about your inferior character. Please, come on, dog. You can come here with your inferior character. Get out of here. I was hoping you'd take that bet because I want them knees, sir.
No.
They're owed to me after the last bet you lost. But anyway.
I know better.
Mr. John Wolf in here saying I'm more
Mario's
an
elephant
right now.
You know what I mean?
Yes, Mario's an elephant now. You can't beat him. He can't be beaten.
Elephant Mario is okay.
He's out here stomping on you. Anyway, as for games that I have been playing before we get into the stories proper, I didn't get a chance I got the footage recorded, but I'm showing footage from someone else, and I'll put his link in the show notes to make sure you give him proper credit. But what you are looking at right now...
Wait a minute. I need you to hold on a minute. Hold on a minute.
Uh-oh.
Highlight Paris's chat.
Of course I will highlight Paris's chat.
Sonic has always been a second class. That is a bold-faced lie, Mr. Lee.
That is a true statement.
How dare you, sir?
Statement.
What are we doing here?
It is a true.
This is like a coalition against Sonic. What are we doing, Mr. Joanna Dark?
Shout out to the man Paris Lilly for coming here and stating facts.
My God.
You know what I'm saying? But yes, let's get to the point at hand. What you are looking at right now is a bit of short demo footage for the game called Viewfinder. For those who are into the puzzle games and all of that, it's a very interesting game. It actually, I think it was shown off on wasn't it shown off on the Nintendo, one of Nintendo's most recent showcases? It wasn't like an official showcase, but one of their indie showcases. And this really took people by surprise because it has really interesting style. Basically, the whole game is you're walking around with a Polaroid camera, and either first you find pictures, and then use those pictures to do like I guess you would call the witness visual kind of puzzle solving. But this is so much more fun, in my humble opinion, than The Witness, because you're literally just aligning a photo and then making that photo come to life. While the trailer, this gameplay
is this VR or is it?
No. This now this is a man who speaks a language that I appreciate. This is a game that should be VR, 100%, because it's not fast paced. You're not going to throw up while watching it, while playing it. But the way that the gameplay mechanic itself is just so ingenious. This makes me happy every time I see it. It just speaks to that indie AAA, it's triple I, if you will. And when I say triple I mean idea, not budget or anything like that. It's like the idea is just so golden and so rich and so great that it begs being worked on and being appreciated. Take a quick look. For those who haven't looked at it, you'll see it right now. Here's a trick of what this game does. And I just got a chance to play this demo, and it just gets better and better and better and better. It's just so interesting and creative. It's just awesome. You go like this, anywhere you want. When I first started playing it, I thought you had to like find a trick and find it how it would work, but it's not a trick. Anywhere you want to align this image, you align the image, you hit start, you hit the acknowledge button, and now that picture will like literally come to life and you can walk into it. And it just gets more and more intricate and more creative. It's just really,
when you
really
say
awesome.
Walk into it, you're like in a different world.
You'll see he's about to do it. Like as I said, this is not my footage, so unfortunately we're gonna have to wait till he does it. But the best part about this, for my Steam Deck / ROG Ally gang, y'all can go try this demo out right now. Go on Steam, the Next Fest. They got like 400 some odd demos. Look up Viewfinder. It's there. Play it now. It's awesome.
I just want to do a quick audible while we wait for this game to actually look interesting.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't yet.
All right. Let me show you the thing.
No. Go ahead. Leave it. Let me ask this question. Hopefully,
this is the question. This is where it gets interesting. Take a look.
All right.
So you have an image, right? Yes. Do something. You have an image. You start with that image in your hand, right? Look. He just put the image down, and now you can literally walk into the image. Well, the person who's playing this game is ridiculous, but look. And then there are teleporters within that image. Now, you start just by holding the images you find in the world, but eventually you get a Polaroid, and then you can start taking pictures.
Does it?
Right?
Does it require an SSD?
It does not require an SSD. This thing plays 60 frames per second on the deck, which tells you that on your Ally, you might get 120. It's butter. This thing is great. So you guys want to check this out. It's really cool. So like in the beginning, it starts with, hey, you find a picture, and using that picture, you traverse the world. Eventually, kind of like Portal, it gives you a Polaroid. And then you start taking the pictures and using those pictures to traverse the huge land. So like you need to get to a place that's far on the other side, right? You take a picture close to you, and then you see you have stairs in the picture, or you have a road in the picture, and you can rotate the picture to give you that traversal that you need, and then lock it in, and then walk over the picture to get to where you need to go. It's super cool. It is very, very, very cool. So yes, I played this. I thought it was really awesome. Like, and the best part about it is it's really cool. It comes out in 2024, and you can check out the demo today. Pretty cool. So there you go. So this is the stuff I've been playing. Unfortunately, this is all I've been playing because, you know, as it has been, it's been a busy work week. Plus the fact that, yes, the real reason why we are here and we're chatting, we have been literally spending our days like watching. It's almost
before we get to that, there's one audible I wanted to call. So
go ahead.
We were just talking about Sonic Superstars and Mario Wonder. That's what it's called, right? Super Mario Wonder, right?
Mario Wonder,
and Prince of Persia, and we saw Planet of Lana. Well, I wouldn't consider Planet of Lana in this, but specifically, you're looking at Superstars, you're looking at Mario, you're looking at Prince. Is it at all possible to say that if something is a 2D platformer, it by definition cannot be considered AAA?
That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. And actually, you know what? I appreciate you bring that up, because at the same time, I put a $5 super chat from Gerald Mack in here, and he said, Phil, Dominus, Maximus Aurelius Spencer, # social construct. And I think
he said the council wars are a social construct. Yes.
That's right. I think that is apt, because yesterday, what was also pointed out pretty clearly when asked by, 2 days ago and yesterday, that the idea of a double N AAA is also has kind of been defined by Microsoft as a social construct, right? Everyone thinks of it a little differently, right? It like initially the initial thought process of a AAA or the A's defined your budget, but as has been pointed out while we were listening to all of this, it's no longer considered that. It's considered feel, it's considered quality. There's a lot to it, right? And as such, there could be a game that is of less of less what do you call it, budget, but still retains the quality level. And then what do you call that? A AAA? No,
Well,
because it's not budgeted as a AAA.
well,
It tells you that the A's kind of have lost their thread a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
but could we
and by the
also
way,
say,
while we're having this conversation, this is what I'm talking about traversing things with pictures. You're going to see it here. Continue.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's cool, bro. So indie. Anyway.
So what I'm getting at is, do we then say, well, based on the genre, right? Because I'm sure Ori had a bigger budget than any 2D platformer before it, right? And we look at, what they're trying to do with Prince of Persia, and you can argue whether it's worth $50 or not. That's a different conversation for a different day.
And Paris
Super
is saying
Mario
that
Brothers 3
Mario Brothers 3 is an example of a AAA. And to me,
wait.
Mario Brothers 3
what
will
year did
always be
Super
AAA.
Mario Brothers 3 come out?
True. I think 91?
Yeah, right. But that was top. That's what you could do
that was top
at the
tier
time.
at the time.
I'm saying in today's world.
In today's world where you can create a world. In today's world where you can create a world that's so super realistic that no one can tell it from fake, from real, right? Is a game that is looking like Mario Mario Wonder and Sonic All Stars. Is a game that looks like that. Can that game be considered
and the new
AAA
Prince of
today?
Persia, right?
And the new Prince of Persia, exactly.
Let's not limit it.
Or Ori, for instance. Can those games be considered AAA today in a world where your Call of Duties and all those others exist?
So I think yes, and it was me recently playing Ori and the Will of the Wisp and Blind Forest.
That convinced you?
In that whole because everything about that in terms of production value, score, just what they were doing on screen, you could play it at like 6K. I understand
this is super
that
interesting, man. Look at Riskit's answer. Hi-Fi Rush is not AAA. That's an interesting answer because
I mean you can argue
by
that
some metric you can say Hi-Fi Rush is AAA caliber.
Well, right, but I don't want to get into that discussion because that will get us into the weeds. I'm specifically saying, can a 2D platformer or a 2D game be a AAA? And I feel like I feel like yes. I feel like yes.
I think
will
so
be,
too.
And it's because unless we're just saying we're ruling out a whole genre from being AAA,
just like I refuse to accept that a racing game can never be Game of the Year. I refuse to accept that a 2D platformer can't be AAA. It's if the metric for AAA is quality, any of the genres can be at that quality.
But some people will say it's budget, but I would argue like you have to say, well, it's a 2D game if you relatively look at the budget for 2D games and then look how much was spent on some of these things. Then
Ori is not AAA, says Riskit.
I don't know if I agree, Riskit.
I don't know if I agree with that either.
Especially Will of the Wisp. Like Blind Forest, I'll give you.
Blind Forest maybe, but Will of the Wisp, I think that was AAA. I don't know. I don't know if I agree. But yes, continue, sir.
But so even if we want to go by the budget metric, I feel like it is relative unless we say what is the number? Right,
because
since it's budget, what is the number
yesterday,
before we say something's AAA?
As was described yesterday, there is no set metric that then transitions you from double to triple. It's all a matter of concept. Who happens to be saying it. What I consider AAA may not be your consideration of AAA because it's kind of lost the thread as to what it is. It used to be a defined specific amount. But that's lost now.
I don't think it was ever that. I think it was just this thing that we say, well, if it reaches a certain think it costs a lot, then it's AAA. So the thing is, if it is a number, what's the number? What is your production? What is your production budget that says a game is AAA or not? I need numbers in the chat. For anybody who says a 2D game can't be AAA.
Mr. Risky for the biscuit, I agree with you, sir. Very interesting discussion. We really need to sit down and have that talk one of these days. And there is really no wrong answer here. The only reason why I enjoyed the debate and want to go there with it is because the vendors and the platform holders themselves are calling this term wishy-washy. So it makes once they determine that the term is wishy-washy, it makes what we think inherently also wishy-washy, because they use those terms to get things to market, and if even they can't agree on that, then how can we? You know what I mean? But it is super interesting, you know. But anyway,
hey, Paris wants to pop in for a minute.
Oh, of course. I mean, come on now. Paris Lilly says he wants to pop in. Why the heck would I deny Paris Lilly?
Well, pause. But yes, let him in. Also, I know.
Let him in.
So after Paris Sycamore, let us know if you want to come in also.
Yes, indeed. This is an open forum, gentlemen. We are here to have that conversation this morning, and I think it's super interesting to have that conversation. But okay, so Paris, the invite is in the chat. If you want to join us and give us your 2 cents, we appreciate you. But okay, so all right. So before we move on though, what do you think besides and I want to use this block? Oh, and by the way, this is what another thing that got me super interested. They went from realistic graphically
to the Roadrunner,
like cartoon word. Yeah, I was like, yo, this is amazing. I can't wait for the full game. I want to see them go even further. This is amazing. I love this game. It's so cool. Shout out to Paris Lilly for joining us. Good morning, sir. How are you this morning?
Hey, good morning. How you doing?
Oh, What's happening? First of all, you're wrong on Sonic and Mario. I just want to start the conversation with that.
Absolutely not.
Go ahead.
Absolutely
not. Go for it, sir. Go for it. This is awesome.
No, yeah. I popped up and I saw you guys were streaming. I was like, you know what? Let me listen in and see what's going on.
Always welcome, sir. Always welcome.
And I immediately walk into chaos. I could not believe that.
Anytime Sonic comes up, this is what happens.
Sonic is and look, I love Sonic. This is not me hating on Sonic. This is just reality. Sonic.
And just so you know, Paris, you're talking to Everborn Sega.
Yes,
Please
I get
clear.
it. Yes, I know. Sonic is a second-class citizen when it comes in comparison to Mario. It just is. In all forms of entertainment. Go down the list. Everything. Here's the better question. Show me head-to-head where a Sonic IP has outsold a Mario IP.
I feel like Sonic 2 outsold Super Mario World.
Ooh, you know what? Wasn't Mario World packed in with the Super Nintendo?
Sonic was packed in with the Genesis, and when the Genesis came out, it sold more.
Okay, so then that negates that argument then, right?
There we go.
Because now it's tied to the hardware.
This is what I was telling them about Kratos. Once Sony packed in God of War with the PlayStation, it was over. It was a fixed fight.
Sure, but also once they did that, what did Sega do? Sega went, nah, homie, and then changed the price to make it cheaper.
What else could they do? They don't have a platform. But anyway, I want to hear what Paris has to say about 2D and AAA. We will get in the weeds on this Sonic thing. Let's get to the reason.
You're going to change the subject on that because you're not going to win that argument. 100%.
Yeah, exactly. Continue, Paris. Yeah.
I have the facts and the argument to back me up, but I will save it for another day, sir.
Sure,
I'm just trying to be respectful of everybody's time because they don't want to hear me win so badly on this argument.
I want to get into the AAA argument, but I do have to ask this, and I'm being serious. Do you think that Sonic Superstars will outsell Super Mario Brothers Wonder?
Absolutely not.
Okay, and then I rest my case.
No chance.
Now, moving on.
This is the place where I want. This is the place I wanted to get him locked up in. But unfortunately, he's learned his lesson, and he refuses to take that bait. So okay, I guess
you don't bet against Nintendo.
Oh,
you
really?
Just don't do it.
Well, no, that I agree, 100% agree. But that actually leads me right into what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. Super Mario Brothers Wonder is a AAA game.
That's what I'm saying, and I wouldn't be surprised if they spent more than $50 million to make it.
Yes, and then to the point, I bet it has a high budget. There's a lot of people working on it. Mm-hmm. That's a AAA game. Now, I agree. Hi-Fi Rush, in my opinion, is not, because it was a smaller team that made that game. And it's very subjective when you say what is considered AAA, AA, and all that. I get it, because there can be an argument for both. Like, what is the criteria that you're using? Is it budget? Is it the amount of people working on the team, etc.? Because You could argue, like I know you brought up Ori as an example, right? Ori is a high quality experience, but I personally don't consider that a AAA game, right?
Not even the second one, not even because that was a higher budget, higher quality. The first one was very indie. I agree with you.
Yeah, and again, this is where it's subjective of what you're saying, because if you're just looking at the amount of people that worked on it and its budget, then where's that cutoff then? What is the number that dictates that now it's a AAA game?
And this will totally burn our brains here, and I think I'll end it with this. What about Hellblade? Because the first one was an indie game.
Yeah, I don't think the first one. Yeah, and the second one, you're probably we're assuming is a AAA
based
game.
on marketing. It looks like they're trying to make it AAA, but will it be?
Right.
If it don't have any combat, I don't know if we can say it's a AAA game.
There he goes.
But we shall see.
Yeah, like someone's bringing up Pentiment in the chat. Pentiment clearly is not a AAA game.
Exactly.
But it's a good game. I don't think is it AA, indie, AAA. That doesn't define if a game is good or it's great, right?
Yeah.
It's if a game's good. Like you're just talking about Viewfinder. I know everyone seems to think it's boring as hell. I played it. I thought it was great. I think this has some puzzle and portal elements in it that I think are fantastic. And as you get deeper into when the final game comes out and you get deeper into the game, it's going to get complex as hell with some of the puzzles that you're going to have. So I love stuff like that. But this is an indie game. It's not a AAA game.
See, I just think that the A's should go back to the budget rather than the quality, because I feel like that becomes where we lose the thread.
My real question is, I do agree once you have a number, but I feel like the budget should be relative to the genre, right?
Sure.
So if we're talking about 2D games, we have to look at how much 2D games typically cost and then say, well, this one is like 10 times the budget of your typical 2D game, which might still only put it at $40-50 million or $30 million. But for a 2D game, that's AAA, right? Yeah. Whereas if you were making a big first-person shooter or an RPG, in order to be AAA, maybe you need an $80 to $100 million budget before you start considering that, or above 50, right? But I think if it is a 2D game, I just think you have to. Bottom line, I think you got to look at the genre, and then what we say as AAA is relative to the genre. That's really my whole argument.
Does expectation come into this as well? So let's just stick with the Super Mario Brothers Wonder. I have a high expectation for the quality of that game, right? Whereas something that I don't is and not the Mario Sonic thing. I don't have as much of an expectation for Sonic Superstars as I do for Super Mario Brothers Wonder, and I think that's part of the argument as well.
Yes,
you know what I mean.
And that's based on the context of the people making it and the genre and the history and all of that. Yes, absolutely.
I mean, obviously, you have to take whatever I'm saying with a grain of salt, but to me, I feel like they're doing more with your typical 2D Sonic than we have seen. So the advances in 2D Sonic are greater in this than the advances are in 2D Mario, right?
See, you don't know that. But you don't know that.
I'm just telling you from the trailers that I've seen.
Well, because it looked, and again, like I said, the minute
Mario's an elephant.
Listen carefully. The minute I saw them release Mario Maker 1 and 2, I knew that the next Mario Maker game they'd make would have to be a complete departure from everything you know. I have a feeling they're only showing you the tip of the iceberg with that thing. It will go in way different directions than you are expecting, because they've already given you the tools to make every Mario game you know. They have to go in a different direction at this point.
Now, I will say, having played I keep doing it. I will say, having played Sonic Superstars, when I played it at Summer Game Fest, they are introducing some new gameplay mechanics with the individual characters that are pretty cool, that you've not typically done in a Sonic game for the level design and how you navigate through it. So it is doing some new things in it that I'm pretty excited about. And that's what I mean. It's not even a thing of I'm trying to put those two games against each other, because I'm playing both of them. It's just when and how I'm going to play both of them is
they're
the
doing
real
local
question.
co-op with 4 players.
Yeah.
That's great, man. I can't wait to play that with the kids.
Mario
That's
Deluxe
amazing,
did do that first. I will give him that.
You see, this is the thing.
But I think we should revisit this after they come out, and we already know which one I'm going to play first.
Of course,
So
of course.
We
know where you are.
I'm going to play the superior game first, which will be Sonic Superstars. But neither here nor there. The moral of the story is, I don't think just because a game is a 2D perspective, we can rule it out of AAA. And that's
I agree on that. On that, I think we are all in agreement. Yes.
Now, I don't know when we're going to get into this, but I want to forewarn you, Paris. Today is going to be a long discussion about yesterday's, the week's.
Well, before we get there,
can I say this before you continue? Can I say this before we continue?
Please go ahead.
When you get to the Activision stuff, I'm tapping out. I hate talking about it.
I knew it. That's why I warned you. That is why I warned you, Paris.
So what I will say is, we'll save the Activision stuff for the end. I want to talk about any and everything that of interest before we get to the Activision stuff. And we know that the Activision stuff is the big block. But before we get there, they did have some other announcements, including said price hike that you're discussing here, right? So I kind of think I want to talk with Paris Lilly about the price hike. Like, is it a thing that we all knew? Was it a foregone conclusion? Are you nonplussed? Or was this a strategic placement because they knew there was a lot of other news they're going to cover the spread? What are your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, I think it's strategic. I don't like it. I knew it was inevitable. I knew this was going to happen. I knew eventually we were going to see price increases. That was inevitable. My thing is this. You went an entire calendar year without a major release. And the moment that you got a game that you know is going to be on fire, you raise the price ahead of it.
We got you. Here's the money. Here's our money.
This was inevitable. Are you really telling me you couldn't wait 6 more months? Could you have not kicked off 2024 with the price increase, given everyone this holiday to still be able to subscribe to Game Pass, to still be able to pick up a Series X at its current price point, and then raise the price? At a minimum, look, if you had to raise the price of the Series X, I get it. Fine. Inflation, this is just the economic world that we're in. But Game Pass, I almost feel like you started the year off jumping to the $70 price point, if you're buying individual games. The subscription, could you, maybe you announce it now, right? I could see you announcing it going, but hey, in January 2024, these are the new prices. So you give people some cushion to be able to jump in, experience Starfield at the current subscription price, right? Then after the holidays, you go, all right, starting in 2024, we're raising the price to this. And look, I get people go, well, it's only $1. It's only $2. My thing on this is get out of my pockets. You don't know my financial situation. Just because you're okay with it doesn't mean that everybody is going to be okay with it, right?
Absolutely.
So not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of them doing it now because I feel like you let down the Xbox community in 2022 by not having any major releases. Give us that before you start charging. When you finally have figured it out, so to speak, right? Finally, we're starting to get that release cadence of great games. And you raise the price on us. So we never truly got to experience the full capabilities of Game Pass from your internal studios at the current price point. We're not going to get that until you raise the price. So that's a bummer, in my opinion.
So
absolutely. Go ahead, everyone. Yeah. What's your thoughts?
There's a few things to this, but I do want to preface what I'm saying with never forget, right, that you're the customer, right? And the whole reason I had those charge them more T-shirts printed up is because when the other side raised prices, because so many people were, I guess, too afraid to admit their side had fault or whatever, they went out of their way. They started talking about macroeconomics, and they started talking about
I remember those days.
if supply and demand, and if you find value, then you're gonna buy it, and blah blah blah. And all that does with these companies who are tracking public sentiment, that tells them it's okay. So even if you're fine because it's just $1 or it's just a $70 game or it's just a $50 price hike or they're not doing it in your country or you already have it, so it doesn't matter if they did that in your country, don't come out here and just publicly say it's okay, right? The whole since the beginning of time, the whole barter system is I want something, I want to pay as little for it as possible, and you want to sell me something, you want to sell it for as much as possible. And we meet somewhere in between. But if I'm just like, okay, sure, charge me more, guess what they're going to do? They're going to charge you more.
So if you remember, Everborn, we had this conversation where when everyone was talking about the inevitable $70 price increase, I was like, this is a foregone conclusion at this point. Media keep asking Microsoft about it. Everyone keeps talking about it. Everyone keeps like having spaces justifying it. Oh well, it's a necessary evil.
Look at the quality of the games. Look,
this is the issue.
We heard all these things, and I'm just saying most of this side of the equation made fun of those guys. And they were like, it's a corporation and you just bend it down for them to do anything. So one, as they keep the same energy or whatever, right? The other thing that I will say is, and you and I shared out a bunch of these links, you don't have to pay full price for this stuff. You don't have to pay.
The pro tip, ladies and gentlemen. There it is.
You don't have to pay $16 or $17 a month for this stuff. I have never paid more than $10 a month for Ultimate since the beginning. Why? Sir. Because anytime there's a sale, or you go to CD Keys or you do things like that, you can go and buy 3 months for like $25.
Ladies and gentlemen,
there's the link
right
on
there, your screen right now.
And you can max this out. Again, don't do it if you don't feel like the service is giving you value. I use Game Pass every month, even in the dreadful first party 2022 year. I was playing games all year. Risk it. What up? What I'm saying is, I pay like $100 a year for Ultimate, and you don't have to throw them that money. So if you like the service, be smart about it, and don't throw away your money. And again, you can be fine with the price hike. I say if you are, shut the F up about it and let the people make noise. All Microsoft should see is a problem, because even if they don't reverse course on it, they should think twice before raising the price again.
Yep.
So give them
I do agree that they deserve the smoke for it. Absolutely. I think they really, really deserve the smoke for it. We can talk a little bit about why they did that now.
We can, and we can also add the fact that they've now met the price of PlayStation Plus Premium, who doesn't do all of this first party stuff and is trying to spend $70 billion to put. What do you call it? If I'm not mistaken,
with the combination of the with the Game Pass price increase and the actual console price increase, it kind of doesn't it make a game with a console in Canada more expensive than the PS5? Like I thought I was speaking to Mag, and I thought he said something to that effect.
I thought they weren't doing it in North America.
I think Canada.
They're not doing it in the U.S., in Brazil, in Chile. Yeah. I thought Japan was a part of the list where they weren't doing it.
Canada did get an increase.
So Canada did that. Okay.
Australia's going to get it. We get it every time.
And it's people are upset, and righteously so. I do agree with you. But
basically, they're raising the price on everybody who didn't approve the deal yet.
Can I tell a funny story from Summer Game Fest about Risk It?
Yes, sir. While he's here, of course.
He looked me dead in the face and goes, "You don't even know who I am." I was like, "Yes, I do. I know exactly who you are." I just thought that was hilarious.
See, I have a feeling that if anybody that went on this trip with you guys, and by the way, we are absolutely jealous. If anybody was going to get into trouble, it was going to be Risk It. I'm happy to hear that it was either Risk It or it was going to be Gaz if he showed up, and luckily Gaz didn't show.
Oh, I was going to whoop his ass if he was there. That was happening.
Exactly. You see, this is what I'm talking about. So salute to Paris for keeping his composure.
I heard he was tiny. I heard he was a little tiny man. Look,
what are your thoughts, Risk It?
Well, I wanted to say something about the AAA and AA, and
go ahead, go back.
I understand
Yes.
it's become a bit of a back and forth and what.
Oh, and before you do risk it, real quick, because you're bringing that up, Doovie is in here. Thank you, Doovie, with a $5 super chat saying, if you consider Pentiment to be AA, then it has to be the budget, scope of the game, and or a mixture of both. Go ahead, risk it. What are your thoughts on the conversation?
It was originally studio size and the money that they spent on the game, and I don't see how that's changed. I mean, the money that you spend on a game that's AAA has increased, and so maybe monetarily you should increase that figure. And then obviously, ergo, you would probably increase the studio size. But I think it used to be, and don't quote me on these numbers, but I think it used to be 100 million and a studio over the size of 100. And that was considered AAA. But I don't know what's changed and why all of a sudden.
This is one of those conversations I want to talk to Jez Corden about. Let me reach out to Jez and see if we can get some history on the A's.
I'm not happy with Jez, by the way.
Okay, please speak on it.
Was that for asking you to ask that question about Fisher?
Yes, 100%. Because I was on their Xbox 2+1 podcast. It's like Patreon, but I guess it'll come out to everybody next week, right? We talk about it on there, and he asked me on there, ask about fishing. I go, absolutely not. I'm not doing that. I go, I'm not asking that question to Todd freaking Howard. And he goes, okay, then I'll just DM Gary. And then Gary freaking asked. I was like, son of a gun.
He didn't ask him at least about beans or anything or mayo or anything. At least you got that out though. That's great. No, but it's a question that needs to be asked. Like, where did the fundamental idea of these A's come from, and when did it diverge? Because it started somewhere, right?
Well, it diverged.
It was never it didn't start off as marketing speak.
It diverged into a social construct, as Phil put it today. It's the so-called console wars that people start using these terms and weaponizing them against people, and then the water gets muddied, and that's what has happened. And then over time, it's just become a completely undefined thing, based on your subjective view. Is this AAA? Is that AAA? I mean, look, you can't say that Hi-Fi Rush is not a bad game, like Paris was saying. It doesn't mean that a game is bad if it's AA. It can be awesome, amazing. It can be game of the year.
Yeah, I think that tends to be the problem, right? Combining the quality with the A's. Like, you can have a cheap, like no one can ever say that Vampire Survivor is even a single A game, but it deserves the accolades.
It should have been a game of the year category,
right. So I think that because of that basis alone, we should at least try within our ranks to separate quality from the A's discussion. We should at least find out where the monetary indication of the A's came from and try to stick with the monetary definition of it, because the quality seems to kind of muddy the water. I think. I don't know.
Completely unrelated, but I heard Paris mention game of the year. And I'm not asking you to make any predictions now.
Oh boy.
But I would just like to say, I want to forewarn everyone, this is going to be the most vicious game of the year discussion we've ever seen, because a lot of people have their feelings hurt because there's so many game of the year worthy games today. I mean, this year, that not all of them can get nominated. So the question is, who do we think will be the biggest snubs? I'm not asking you to tell me who will win, just who we think people will be really upset that won't get nominated.
Can I give you a huge
I will start first.
hot take?
Okay.
Starfield.
Go ahead. You think Starfield won't get nominated?
Huge
you think Starfield is going to be for the snub? Okay.
It's not that I think it's for the snub. I think that, and you know, we talk
this,
about
and the snub is not winning. Nominated,
it's not winning.
I think is enough.
Well, see, we've always had this conversation, and of course, I know I'm where I'm going. I'm heading into fanboy territory, so please keep that in mind. But it's always been this conversation about, you know, when it comes to Xbox games specifically, and let's be clear, Xbox has earned that, right? And they themselves need to counteract that narrative. It's not like whether it's fair or unfair, it is where they are, and it's up to them to counteract that narrative. But whenever Xbox has a game, eyeballs and criticism is very, very much on it, right? Whereas other games tend to get more slack cut on them because it has this amazing gameplay loop.
I'm going to disagree.
Something. Please, Paris, I want you to disagree.
I'm going to disagree because
tell me why I'm wrong.
That is a narrative that I hear a lot. And
yes, we hear that a lot. Yes.
And
I'm not even going to say it because let me be fair, Paris. What I mean by that is I am not saying that I agree with that sentiment, but I'm saying that narrative will prevail in Starfield against Starfield as well.
But see, this is where I disagree. And look, nameless site that brought this up a few weeks ago that I definitely disagreed with that. And full disclosure, I get a vote as far as the whole Game of the Year nomination stuff. I have the past couple years, right? It's not true. It's just simply not true that because it's coming from Xbox is going to be judged differently. The truth of the matter, when we talk about games that come from Xbox Game Studios, tell me the last game that deserved to be in the Game of the Year conversation from Xbox Game Studios. Take Psychonauts 2 out of it. Tell me.
Forza Horizon 5.
But traditionally, racing games don't. I agree, but traditionally, racing games don't. So let's take that one out of the conversation as well.
I don't
think
it's purposeful. I don't think it's a purposeful thing. So I'm big on this whole inherent bias. It's not a purposeful. We've decided to vote against Xbox because they're bad. It's you just have way more a way bigger player base, and that's obviously going to bleed into the media. There's going to be a bigger player base within the media as well, and the people that do have a pass that do vote. And so what happens is you have an inherent bias of people who are more on the PlayStation side, and it just sort of bleeds into the Game of the Year awards. I don't think
Michelle
there's a
Alexandria
solution.
chimes in with Flight Sim. What about that?
Oh yeah, I don't think there's I don't know what the solution.
No, my point is, if I can interrupt, because I'm even seeing what the chat is trying to say, asking what do I mean. My point is, let's just take Starfield as an example. Are we really seriously going to sit here and say that if Starfield does not get quote unquote nominated for Game of the Year, it's because there's a bias against Xbox?
No.
That is what I'm talking about.
Let me be clear. I'm not saying that if it doesn't get nominated, there is an inherent bias. No. What I'm saying is, for example, and let me be clear in my assertion here, right? I'm saying, for example, Jedi Survivor, right? Possibly could get nominated. Everyone loves that game. I love that game. I've been playing that game for a while now. Right? I think it's great. It's full of bugs, at least on PC. On console, less so, but still very bug ridden. It was more bug ridden in the beginning, less so now. But that didn't seem to be detrimental to its score or to people's feelings of it. It's still a great game. I feel like if Starfield comes out at the same jank level as Jedi Survivor, it will not get the same slack. Am I wrong?
But that's a Bethesda thing, not an Xbox thing. Because Bethesda has built that reputation over the past 2 decades of having buggy games. So it's already built in that you're expecting this buggy experience from Bethesda. And if that's what they deliver with Starfield, it's going to be held against them. 100% it will be.
I do want to add that just in looking at the responses to the usual suspects of Xbox haters, right? Even they have looked at that and been like, damn, this looks good. So I really feel like Starfield, just from what I've seen, and Paris, you probably have a little bit more experience with Starfield than I do. But from everything we've seen,
I wish I did. But
not that you could say if you did, but whatever. Wink.
Mr. Lilly, who came on our show and said he first off had no part in the game show, and if he did, he wouldn't be able to tell us. Only for us to then see him in the game show. Let's move forward, shall we? Okay. Yes.
Seeing him out there going to planet Arrakis. You know what I'm saying? So, but anyway,
salute to you, good sir. Yes.
But the point that I'm getting at is I think Starfield is going to win over a lot of people, and whether even if they did have some sort of bias, I think it will supersede that. And I do think just based on what we've seen, if it delivers on 80% of the promise that people
should
feel
be
like
enough.
it is right now.
Yeah.
I think it's a shoe-in to be nominated. I still think Zelda's going to win, but I think it will be nominated. Now, back to the original question. I think the two biggest upsets are going to be Hogwarts and Final Fantasy 16. But then again, no one even talks about Hogwarts anymore, so maybe it was a flash in the pan.
It's not a flash in the pan.
There was a lot of Game of the Year talk when it came out.
Because it was early in the year, and there are lots of crazy.
And
Game
what
of
have
the Year
you done for
candidates
me
going
lately?
on now?
Right.
I don't think it was.
Right?
I don't think it's that. I genuinely I didn't finish Hogwarts. It was bloated. It was very much.
Oh, so you didn't like it?
Talk that talk.
Yeah, it was a very much.
Inferior franchise.
So we have biased individuals.
Poor man's
on the panel.
Tolkien.
Understood,
Keep going.
Understood. We have biased individuals. Good.
It's a Ubisoft game. Like, look, I think you were in the party when I was playing it, K, one day, and
yes,
it started grinding on me after a while, and that's not a Game of the Year contender in my view.
We have a lot of bias
culture.
Can I interrupt?
Yes,
and maybe I should
do.
I should not even be looking at the freaking chat.
Okay.
Chat, because the chat is saying, what the hell are we talking about? What are you talking about? What is being said is, when it comes to Bethesda, they have a reputation of bringing out buggy games. So at a certain point in time, that is not going to continue to get a pass if you keep putting out buggy games. So yes, Fallout 4, look, we can go down the freaking list. Skyrim is Game of the Year contender. Fallout games have been Game of the Year contender. We're not saying that they have not been, but this is just God honest truth. If Starfield comes out in the state that Fallout New Vegas came out in, that will be held against them. It will, because at a certain point, you can't continue to just put out a buggy game. Look at CD Projekt Red with Cyberpunk. It's the same thing.
And to be clear, right? I brought that argument, I brought that thought about, and the idea that Bethesda has a reputation, that negates that whole thing. Because if Microsoft, and yes, we all speak about, they're the Microsoft tax, and they might be looked critically, but the point is absolutely valid that that Bethesda does have a history of Bugthesda. Right. So whether or not Microsoft is looked at critically whenever they release a game or not, it is also they who chose to align with Bugthesda. So it will still continue, and it'll be their fault and no one's fault but their own.
And
so
Matt Booty's words will be used against them. Because Matt Booty sat on the giant bomb couch and said, "This is the least buggy Bethesda game right now." He said that.
He didn't say there was no bugs, though, right? And
he just said the least. Yes.
I don't think you can build a game like Starfield with all of the systems running, and the item permanence and everything that goes into a game like Starfield and have no bugs. If people are expecting no bugs, I think that's a little bit
right. Even
it looks like, I don't know, this person in the chat, and I don't know if this is just a regular person in your chat, but when I say chill, it's like, don't be disrespectful in the chat. If that's
Please.
The case, I
everybody be nice.
Don't need to be.
If there are any disrespectful people there, if there's any disrespect in our chat, you will be banned hands down. There will be no disrespect of our panel members. We are here having a great conversation. We appreciate the panel members for just jumping on. It was myself and Mr. Everborn, and now we have Risk It, and we have the man Paris Lilly also joining us. So please, we can have debates, we can have disagreements, but if you're not respectful, you'll be out of here, and that's just the way it will be. Please,
yes, Pixel and Slow Mo will send you to the shadow.
Oh yeah. We have hammers. They will come down on you. So please.
I mean, and I don't mean to interrupt on that, and I do apologize for derailing it because this is an interesting conversation to have, and it's not that I'm even sitting here saying that I'm right, because of course not. It's.
You were wrong about Sonic, so
Well, then there you go.
Stop it! Just stop it! Oh God, how many Sonics are going to be referenced?
My point on it is, we have to, when we have these kind of conversations, you have to take your personal biases and allegiances out of it and just look at things for the reality of what they are. So when we're talking about Game of the Year and we're talking about snubs and all of that, you have a game that's coming from a studio that has a reputation of a certain aspect. You have them talking before the game comes out that aspect is going to be the least, what's the word I'm looking for? It's going to be the least bug free that we've ever seen from it, right? So if we get a Fallout New Vegas scenario, or we get a Jedi Survivor scenario or a Cyberpunk scenario with that game, after you're telling us that isn't what we're going to get, as a reviewer, you are going to ding them for that. And that's all I'm saying.
Absolutely.
So
well, you should.
I agree with you on that. Yeah.
And again, it's going to depend on what the bugs are. And saying the least buggy for a Bethesda game that really doesn't give us a lot to go off of.
Yeah.
But the other thing I will say is part of the reason when Elden Ring came out, there was literally channels that got to 1 million subs just off of Elden Ring content. And a lot of that content was exploiting bugs in the game. Right. I remember you guys remember my whole life crisis where I was stuck on the fire giant for like 2 months. And I was going back and looking for videos on how to beat him where you could trick him to jump off the cliff. Right. There's a lot of things you could do. So the game can have bugs, but what people are going to say is, and I understand 100% what you're saying, Paris. I just want to be devil's advocate to give the people a voice in the chat that are trying to. I think what they're saying is they will not like the coincidence that once Bethesda became a part of Xbox, that it stopped getting that pass. And you are right. People's patience will run thin. But the idea that it ran thin when they became a part of Xbox is going to rub people the wrong way. And this does bring up, though, the reason why I wanted to have this quick sort of sidetrack conversation, because you already see a preview of it. The snubs this year are going to be insane.
Yeah, absolutely. I do agree.
And it doesn't matter whether it's Starfield that gets snubbed or something else. It's going to be
there will be a contingent of folks that will be hurt by some of these.
I do want to see the Hogwarts folks hurt, though. I want to see them hurt. I want to see them.
But here's the thing about 2023, and I'm not trying to derail it into another topic.
Please go ahead. Yeah, we're here for it.
I've fought saying this for so damn long. I'm like, no, I'm not saying this. I'm not saying it. But man, the evidence is staring us right in the face. This might be the biggest gaming year, literally ever.
Yeah, all because of COVID, because of the delay.
Right, because everything got dumped into this year. Just look at October. October is chaos.
Wild. It's wild.
Something has to give. Look, and I got to see that Summer Game Fest. I know it's going to be great, but I'm telling you right now, Remedy, y'all need to blink. Y'all need to blink. And y'all need to move out of that window because of
Can you imagine that Alan Wake 2 is going to be a culprit? A game like Alan Wake 2 is going to be a culprit?
I just want to point out, I would like to point out that Avatar tried to go up against Sonic the Hedgehog 3 movie, and it had to blink against Sonic. And now in October, we're saying people got to get out of the way of Sonic Superstars. That's all I want to put on the table, and you guys can do whatever you want with that information.
Ladies and gentlemen, are you okay if I mute this man? Enough Sonic slander with this ridiculousness. What are we doing here? Stop with this.
These are the facts, people.
Well, here's a question. Here's another question.
Go ahead.
So we had a massive. I mean, I've said it. We've had a massive 2023. It is definitely, in my opinion, the best gaming year that I can remember. And so, how do you section out these games that shouldn't make it? Obviously, Hogwarts is a definite no. Ubisoft clones should not be in there. But
get it out of there.
But say
bang zoom to the moon, Alice. Go ahead. What's the next one?
Do remakes get an opportunity to? We've had some really solid remakes.
Resident Evil 4. People's calling that game of the year. Not a chance. It's not going to be on the list.
I get upset with that. And Paris, I want to know your thoughts as well. I get upset at that. I don't care how good this game is. Like, if the rumors were true and there was an announcement of like Jet Set Radio remake or whatever, I would have been happy as clams. Like, I would have loved it. But there's no way on earth that should get a nomination for Game of the Year, no matter how good it is, because it's a remake of an existing property. Am I wrong?
I'm with you on that. Like, take the Dead Space remake as an example. That should not be in the Game of the Year conversation because I played that game back in 2008.
Exactly.
That's how I look at it when it comes to stuff like that. Now, if you're if you're doing a reimagining like God of War as an example.
Yeah. Yes, that's a different conversation.
But just remaking it, and it's virtually the same game with some tweaks and obviously visual upgrades. No.
So like Resident Evil 4. There are changes, but not big changes. Light changes, but it's still basically the same game as before. It just looks great. Is that considered? Would people get upset if that gets considered for Game of the Year?
Yeah, I think so. There would be a lot of fussing if that was put in there.
My humble opinion, I agree.
When you, especially when you look at this year's lineup of games, so you're going to kick out as just random Diablo 4 for that. Oh yeah, people are going to lose their minds.
Jedi Survivor is going to get snubbed.
Well,
again
okay. Let me throw something. Let me make this more interesting. Should fighting games be nominated? Everyone loves Street Fighter 6, 90-something meta, and we expect the same for Mortal Kombat.
It's the same as racing, in my opinion.
There you go.
I think is good. And think about it. When we talk about best years ever, this guy, my God, this is going to be the best year ever for fighting games. But Mortal Kombat 1, Street Fighter 6, they're not going to get nominated. They're just not. It's not going to happen. Same as Forza Motorsport could be 10 out of 10. Let's move
forward from this conversation, but I want to throw one last wrench. Well,
Slow-Mo's trying to get in. He wants the damage control for Hogwarts.
Okay. I will let Slow-Mo in because we here for it today. We here for the crazy slander. I will let him in. But the last question, the last statement that Paris just made here about it shouldn't be allowed, and I hear you. Not shouldn't be, but it won't be historically because they usually don't. What if? And this is just me out of left field, just a thought. What if Mortal Kombat's story is far more cinematic than it ever has been? Does that change the equation? Because I know historically, cinematics, storytelling is a huge driver for those game awards. This fighting game has traversed those cinematics far more than most other games in their other genres have. If this MK1 has a genuinely good story, would that change the equation, or it's a fighting game and it doesn't matter? And I guess that's to Paris.
I don't think it matters because at its core gameplay loop, it's a fighting game.
There you go.
But then why are we calling it the Game Awards then? Why don't we just say
call it the cinematic gaming,
the RPG over the shoulder action adventure awards?
But it would probably get nominated in another category, but not the game of the year category.
But again,
why?
I'm talking. I'm
agreeing with Everborn Saga, but I agree with you.
But I am saying it is, and then we got to get Enigmatic Dreams chat.
I want to get it next.
What I'm saying is, I believe that this is a fundamental flaw in what is considered as. What'd you say?
I agree.
I don't disagree with you. Yeah, I'm with you.
So because it's just like if we're only going to nominate a specific or select a specific kind of game and say, well, because even though this might be a perfect fighting game or a racing game or whatever other genre of game, really we're going to say, are you a shooter? Are you an RPG?
Yeah,
or are you some over-the-shoulder sad dad thing?
Action adventure game, essentially. Those are the categories that get nominated, and it's consistent every year. Yeah.
Can I bring some perspective?
Slowmonius.
Can I bring some perspective to, and we're talking Keeley's Awards for this discussion, right?
True.
So bringing perspective to it.
Yes.
So as a person, media, and whatever the hell you want to call me, but as someone who gets to vote, what happens is we get to make a list of nominations of the games that we think should get nominated. So I'll take you back 2 years ago. I had Death's Door in the Game of the Year nomination.
Oh, the right answer, sir.
But it didn't make it to the final list. So what will happen is even if Mortal Kombat 1 makes it to the final list that the public gets to vote on, fighting games are niche. They are. So it's not going to get enough votes from the public to ultimately make that game of the year list. That's what I think I'm trying to say here.
Yeah, that's what I was going to jump in and say that as well, is that it's sort of like your PlayStation player base when it comes to the media. It's the same sort of thing. Street Fighter 6 looks amazing. Perfect 10 out of 10. Great fighting game. I played it, liked it. But fighting games aren't my thing. It wouldn't be something that I would vote for. And I would say that, a good 80%, 70% of the community would be the same. And so you just sort of going with what is the thing that most people play and like the most. It's not I don't think it's it's an inherent bias, or you can call it a niche. They're just not the big thing. I mean, same with racing games. Yeah, I completely agree.
Slowmonius, what are your thoughts, sir?
First of all, I want to say that I am currently playing Final Fantasy 16 right now, and I would say that it won't be snubbed because it doesn't deserve to be a game of the year.
Ooh.
I'm not saying it's a bad game.
What game are we talking about? Final
Fantasy.
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying it's a bad game. It's a good game. It's just not a great game or a great RPG. So I don't think, I think good games are fine, great, but they don't deserve to be a nominee or in the small circle of Game of the Year nominations.
So it's the same as Hogwarts.
No, because Hogwarts deserves it. But Hogwarts also will not be nominated, but that's for completely non-gaming reasons.
Yeah.
There will be. It won't be nominated for that because there are people who don't know how to smoke.
To your point, Slomo, I think Hogwarts will fall into the trap where first it released early, secondly there was controversy, and thirdly, and luckily for those who are reviewers and those who are nominating, there are many, many, many other options. And those three reasons will be a good reason to leave this off, because other years where there may not have been so many other options, this could have been a hot button topic. But this year where you have all these other bangers coming out,
it will be easy to pass over Hogwarts because of all the games that are out. And I'll say this as someone who beat Hogwarts Legacy twice.
Yes,
it has a great story. I think
debatable.
What it does not debatable. You didn't play the game, sir. You played an hour, so you don't
4.5 hours, sir.
You still don't know anything about the story. So thank you. It has subplots and side quests with side characters that are far more engaging than you get from probably any other AAA game that's going to come out this year. It is a high quality game, and I think it kind of came out of left field for a lot of people, especially from a developer that no one cares about. Yes, recency bias definitely is going to play a part in that. It's just there's so many like high profile games that also delivered, like Jedi Survivor, which I also think might get snubbed. Diablo 4 delivered. Tears of the Kingdom delivered. That it's going to be easy to say Hogwarts Legacy, you know what, you're kind of problematic and I might get canceled for nominating you, so I'm not going to, and I'm going to nominate all these other.
You think that the Jedi Survivor is going to get snubbed?
I'm pretty sure
because there's only 6 nominations, and then you got to have your token indie in there, and so that's really just 5 nominations, really. So I think they're just going to be the odd man out. I think it'll be the biggest snub, but I think it will get snubbed.
So one thing I do want to
because this will be the second year it gets snubbed, right? Because the last time it got snubbed as well.
Fallen Order didn't get nominated either. Yeah.
Go ahead, everyone. You were saying
no. Just to something we were saying earlier, and I really don't want to miss the super chats we had. So I hope you.
I'm going to them right now.
So because we got one from Lucius Augustus, and before that, Enigmatic Dreams.
Yep.
But what I was saying, so Paris, you said that fighting games are niche, and I just canonically, I was thinking, yes, I agree with that. But when you said that, I was like, wait. Didn't
back in the day they used to be the only game?
No. But wait a minute. Mortal Kombat 11 sold 12 million copies, right?
It did. Yeah.
And the one before that Mortal Kombat X did 10 million copies. Can we really say that fighting is niche if we got 10 million sellers?
Isn't that the same excuse that was used for
you make an excellent point.
Forza? Right?
Who are you talking to?
Same thing was used for Forza. Just in general, right? The argument that a lot of people play it, so it can't be called niche. Same thing happened. They were calling Forza niche while it was climbing the charts and had millions upon millions of people playing it.
But then currently 30 million people have played Forza Horizon 5.
Yeah, and it's still considered niche.
But it's the genre that is niche, not necessarily specifically the game. So Mortal Kombat will have a ton of people playing it, buying it, and enjoy it. But it's like there's a lot of other crossover for other games. So we all on the panel can say that we've all played GTA 5. We've all played.
We can't all say that.
Wait,
I didn't play GTA 4.
We can't all say that.
That's where I stopped.
But everyone don't count.
Yeah.
He don't count. Yeah. I mean,
I knew that was going to bring this up.
He don't count. But no, I'm saying for the most part, when I say there's crossover for a lot of games, that there'll be people who will play all the big games that come out this year and then don't play the fighting game or don't play the racing game or don't play the sports game because they don't really rock with that kind of genre, So it's the crossover is that all the other games are somewhat similar, and then that other game is just it's you're in a car 90% of the time. So I kind of feel like when people say it's niche, it's like it's so different from the rest of these games that they don't think it should be considered, and it does.
I wonder how long.
Well, we hear you now. You weren't saying anything before.
Well, yeah, because I was talking before. I was like, he asked me the question. I was saying it.
No,
sorry. No, right here. Sorry.
Go ahead, Paris.
No. I was actually he's making my point exactly as basically what I was going to say, and I think bringing the sports analogy into this works as well. NBA 2K and Madden are monsters. They make huge numbers. But does NBA 2K or Madden ever end up in the game of the year conversation? No, it doesn't. Same with fighting games, same with racing games. Like we were saying, Forza Motorsport is probably going to be a 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 game, but it won't get nominated for game of the year because even though, sure, there is a huge fan base that plays it, they're not the quote unquote mainstream games. They're not the mainstream ones that everyone's constantly talking about because as we know, events like Evo are huge. So it's not that there isn't a big crowd of people that are heavily hardcore and invest in the fighting games. I get what you're saying about the numbers because that totally is a valid argument, talking point on that. But I think when we talk game of the year, like this year, it's going to be the Diablos, the Final Fantasies, the Starfields, the Zeldas of the world that are going to end up in that conversation.
Maybe the Sonic Superstars. We never know.
Oh God.
Hey, on that point, it would not shock me if Super Mario is in there. Wouldn't shock me.
No, it wouldn't shock me either.
Yeah.
It would shock me if Sonic made it there.
But the reason I'm saying that, just like Zelda is ultimately going to win Game of the Year, it's the IP, it's the brand name recognition, and it's a high quality game. That's why. Plus, with that Super Mario Brothers movie this year, everyone's going to be talking about when that game comes out in October, you're going to get the quote unquote casual people that, new Mario game. I love that movie. I'm going to go pick it up and play it.
So Eric the Red 06 said 2019 Super Mario Smash Brothers Ultimate was nominated for Game of the Year, although it's still considered niche. So it is an interesting conversation, and I really do think that it's a conversation we should continue having because, like you, Everborn, I believe that the fundamental construct is a bit broken. The fact that certain genres always get left out, I equate it to pop music, right? There's lots of genres of music. There is no such thing as pop music. It's when that genre of music does something so good that it hits the mainstream, and I feel like equating a genre as niche never allows a game like Forza or any other game like that is now considered niche to become pop because it's always just going to be regulated to it's this genre. They should allow for maybe the game does something breakthrough that allows mainstream to get into it, kind of like how Elden Ring made that style of game mainstream for almost a short window. You know what I mean? Like they can stay in their lane and do what they do, but if they do something tremendous that brings the normals, quote unquote, into the fray for a while, that should be recognized. And I feel like calling the genre niche stops them from getting to the mainstream eyeballs. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm hoping that one day we can traverse that gap to where your Death's Door could potentially become
I would love
mainstream game. You know what I mean?
Can I give what I think the snub's going to be? I think someone's already said it already, but it's going to be Jedi Survivor.
You think so? Right. You think Hogwarts instead of Jedi Survivor?
Well, no. There will be multiple.
Jedi instead of Hogwarts?
Well, no. Someone even said that too. Look, we already know there's a political and social aspect to Hogwarts that will keep it from getting nominated. I don't even think that we should even discuss that one. To me, that's a no-brainer.
I'm shocked that Paris agrees with me. This is crazy.
Hey, now.
I'm gonna mark this down.
If it does not get nominated for Game of the Year, Jedi Survivor, I'll have hurt feelings. I will be dirty.
Oh,
when you look at this Murderer's Row that's coming this year, I think we're all in agreement. Tears of the Kingdom, no brainer. Diablo 4, no brainer. This Final Fantasy 16 probably is on that list, right?
I don't know.
Starfield is probably on that list.
Hey. Don't sleep on Baldur's Gate 3. A lot of people are excited about that.
But to the point, this is you're making my point here. Start going down the list of all these games, not to mention what else is coming out the rest of the year. The Alan Wake 2s of the world. Yeah, Spider-Man 2. Yeah, so something's getting left out.
Yeah, absolutely.
100% something's getting left out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
So just because I know they really wanted to get your take on this, Paris, I'll read these super chats and then we'll.
Yeah, I was gonna start the super chat stuff. Like, want me to do it? You go ahead. Okay. I will start with, let's see. We'll start from the past and go forward. And actually, I didn't get a chance to read Mr. Riskit for the Biscuit super chat while he's on here with a $3 super chat. Thank you so much. He said it's not subjective. It's $1 and studio size. That was for the AAA conversation. Thank you, sir.
I need a number. I need a specific number.
We definitely need a number.
Yeah, we talked about that. Go ahead.
Enigmatic Dreams with a $5 super chat saying, I'd call BS. Gears Ultimate got docked by reviewers for too much a button.
Too much A button.
Oh, too much A button. I'm sorry. Too much A button. Every Xbox pick gets picked apart, but Nintendo gets a pass, and Sony for the same.
Yeah, I wanted to respond to that because I mean, Paris is making good points, but and this is coming from, I guess I get considered an expert quite a lot, but it's not like it's not deserved. Like it happens for a reason. It wasn't just Xbox turned up on the scene and everyone started picking on them for no particular reason. They did this to themselves throughout the Xbox One generation. It's not fair. I don't believe it's right. And then when you look at PlayStation, they have, you just can't deny it, they have put out quality game after quality game with a couple of misses. But those misses are forgiven very quickly with the next quality game. And that's where PlayStation has been and is more successful, and Xbox needs to pick up its game. So
they can quickly move to the next thing that you'll appreciate, and you'll forget the thing that you did not like 5 minutes ago. Yes.
So
Xbox hasn't done that well enough. Yes. Go ahead, Everborn.
The only thing I will say when we want to talk about who's putting out quality games, again, I think it comes back to that game of the year discussion where we're only talking about one specific genre of games, because, and I know you hear every Xbox fan shout this from the top of the rooftops, right? 2021 Publisher of the Year. But if we're just looking at numbers here, right? And this is for everybody on the panel. Go from 2020 until today, barring Redfall, right? Because that was obviously a miss.
Yeah, you're making my point.
What? No, this is what I'm saying. I think that I'm agreeing with you. But if we want to have these conversations, let's just have them in the numbers, and then we can go from there. What has Xbox released, and how was it received by the public? Right? Because we could go to Flight Sim, which was 90 plus. We could go to Forza Horizon 5, which was a 92. We could go to Halo Infinite, which got every bad faith argument and then a bunch of deserved arguments under the sun, and that still got an 87. We look at Hi-Fi Rush, that damn near cracked 90. We look at Psychonauts. Again, that was actually nominated in the Game of the Year discussion.
But you know what, everyone? The problem, though, is you're describing the problem, which is like you're proving the point that, hey, they have a lot more, they deserve a lot more credit than we're giving them, which I agree with.
But is that the sort of the critics, or is that us not giving them the credit? Because it's what us. I'm noticing is the critics that are giving them the credit.
And this was the point that I was trying to make earlier, you know, when people got fussy in the chat, that the media isn't the one that's doing the bias. You just read the numbers right there. The scores are there. They're not underscoring these
there
games.
Is some media doing the bias, but yes, I agree with you.
When I say the media, because when you say the media, that means everybody.
Right.
There's always going to be bad apples in anything that you do. So, of course, there's some people that might have an agenda and say some stuff out of pocket that doesn't make sense. We see that. You've seen PlayStation games, certain sites will give it a low score for no freaking reason, and it doesn't make sense. But when you say the media, that includes everybody. That you're including me. in there. And no, I'm not biased against Xbox or PlayStation or anything, right? So that's why I don't like to hear that, because you're generalizing everybody when you say that. Sure, there are individuals. If you want to call out certain individuals as being biased, that's one thing. So that's when I hear the media is purposely going to score Starfield low. That's ridiculous. It's not
Paris said, "Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby."
Yeah.
But Lucius Augustus, he says Metro UK gave Hi-Fi Rush a lower score because Xbox hadn't released the game recently. How does that impact the game they were playing at the time? Bias. I agree. However, this is the Metro UK we're talking about.
Thank you.
Yeah.
A publication that no one should take seriously.
No one should take seriously ever.
Right. And that's my point. You can't take that site that we know will say some out-of-pocket stuff and then generalize and say it's everybody. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying in that.
I think people should be more considerate in how they make their statements, because they will generalize everyone, and then because they get called out for generalizing, saying, "Well, you know what I mean." Well, no, I don't know what you mean. Like, you should define your statement a lot more clearer if you're going to say that there is bias. As everyone said, there is some bias out there. That's accurate, and it also doesn't then call out literally every single media source and call them all biased.
So here, I'll give you this example on that, and I'm saying this because he's a friend and I love him to death. Is Skill Up biased because he didn't like Final Fantasy 16?
No, he's definitely not biased.
My point,
I see integrity in that man.
Exactly, because he will give his reasons why he doesn't like it. That doesn't make him biased against the game. He's giving you valid reasons why he didn't like it.
I guess you could maybe substitute that word bias, because I've spoken on a lot of these things that have happened in the media that come out and that you see and that could be considered bias. Maybe there's a stigma around Xbox because of the Xbox One era. And I think that's still a bit of a hangover for them. And I think in 2021, they were sort of moving out of it. And then we hit 2022 and it seemed to be, 1 step forward, 2 steps back. And I think that does affect the media. I think that stigma is there. I'm not generalizing everyone. I think that stigma is there, but it's just critical thinking. I mean, obviously, Paris, you do critical thinking and you think about it from your standpoint, and people do it from their standpoint. But there's obviously there is a stigma, I think, around Xbox, and I think we're moving into that period where hopefully we do break that. But I've never. When I talk about bias, if I talk about that stigma, I don't think of it as like they're just going to score it badly because it's an Xbox game. Starfield's going to get snubbed because it's an Xbox game. I don't think that happens. I think that's excessively extreme. That's not the kind of bias I'm sort of talking about. The stigma, I guess I'm talking about is the earned stigma. But to your point, Everborn Saga, if you want to go from the numbers, I crunched the numbers a while ago on Xbox. Exclusives and Xbox timed exclusives, and since Phil Spencer's tenure as the head of Xbox, they've hit an average of about 80 Metacritic. So I'm kind of destroying my own point there. But when you named all of those games, none of those games are big, massive drop moving the needle.
That's the point, right? That's the reason why people
at the beginning. That was my original.
Reason why people should not look at the numbers, right? The numbers speak volumes, but no one cares about the numbers because Flight Sim will sell 1 billion copies and you'll go, it's a simulator.
But that was the point I was trying to make at the very beginning when we started this Game of the Year conversation about things that come from Xbox Game Studios. It's not that Psychonauts 2 isn't a great game. I love that game. I like you said, Flight Sim, been part of their marketing for it. But those aren't move the needle. Now, look, Psychonauts 2 is actually a bad example because it actually was nominated. But my point is Xbox over the past decade has few far in between had those games that would end up in the Game of the Year conversation. That is all I'm saying. And they have said that. This is why they've done the acquisitions that they've done. Hell, you want to pull me in an Activision stuff. That's what Phil Spencer was talking about yesterday. They need more in-house quote unquote AAA Game of the Year titles to truly compete with what PlayStation and Nintendo is doing.
Let's get this super chat, because first off, it continues to spur on the conversation, and he says some outlandish stuff that I don't agree with you, sir, but I appreciate it. Enigmatic Dream with a $10 super chat saying, been watching podcasts since 2015. You guys overtook Xbox 2 as my favorite. I don't agree with you, sir. Xbox 2 is
suck it, Randon Jez.
Close. My favorite podcast is Xbox 2, close probably to ILP. But he continues on to say, just want to show support, Paris. Sorry, but journalist integrity is gone, even though you have it. BIOS is real. Quantum Break example.
So can I touch on the super chat? I cannot touch on the super chat, and I saw even these same comments in your chat. It is not fair to generalize all journalists as not having integrity. This is why I am sensitive about this, because I have personal relationships with a lot of these journalists, and I consider them colleagues and friends. So to put a blanket statement across all of media and say that there's a bias is just simply not true. I will go to my grave fighting that. Are there individuals that do? Yes. But you cannot make these blanket statements saying that. It is a slap in the face to the people that go out there and bust their ass to review these games, to do these preview content, to do the actual journalistic work of investigative reporting in this industry, to tell you the behind the scenes stuff that happens in there. Just because you don't agree with the site and their score or their opinion about something does not mean that entire site is biased. It's just simply not true. So that is one. Y'all can be upset at me and say whatever that you want, but I will never agree with that. I just simply won't.
Can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question that based around reviews? Because this is a long time thing that we've had on Xbox Infinite, and we've gone back and forwards on it and sort of torn it down and built it up. And so my question is, do you believe?
Smacked it up, flipped it, and turned around?
This would resolve the entire bias.
And real quick, sorry, I apologize, but I must make note when it shows up. Salute to the 303 people watching this now.
Okay.
Please
I don't know how many likes we have, but let's fix that.
So
also, hit that like button. Yes, sir.
Let's say there was a framework, right, for reviewing, or that every site published that they had a framework, and this is the framework that we work under for doing reviews. That would resolve a lot of this bias, because if they stepped outside of that framework to do these reviews, you would know. I had this conversation with Gaming Nexus. Great little site. They don't make money off their site. They just do the reviews off their own back. And one of the guys gave Forspoken a 10 out of 10. He was good enough to come on the show and give his reasons as to why.
Yeah,
he
I was
gave
on
it
that show as well.
10.
I remember. Yes.
Yeah. But what we sort of came to was, shouldn't there be a framework? And he answered no. But I'm curious, Paris, do you think that it would be helpful for this sort of conversation to stop this sort of conversation if we had some sort of framework that was industry-wide?
Yep.
Paris, you answer that, but I think I have the answer.
Then let's hear your answer.
We need to get rid of scores, and people need to read. Yes. And look at a review and understand what people are saying. We get so caught up on the score. No one actually reads the review. They go and look at an aggregate score that is just based off of how many people gave it a positive or negative review based on a number, which the math isn't even right. And you don't want things to fall into a framework. You want to get the thoughts of the people you trust. And to the conversation about journalists, not everybody is an actual journalist that's putting in the work. Some people are they're writing on a website. That doesn't make you a journalist. Not everybody's doing the work that say Aaron is doing or Paris is doing, or even Jason Schreier. And I know a lot of people don't like Jason Schreier because reasons, right? But the point is, I don't think anyone will doubt that he does his work as a journalist. And there's a difference between what Jez Corden does, what Paris does, what Skill Up does, what ACG does.
Yep,
those are very different than some of these people who they just gave them a keyboard and paid them 25 cents a word, right? So I think we got to take that into account when we say journalists, right? Because this would be the same thing as Paris saying, like, if you're a network engineer, like, oh, all network engineers are full of shit. and they're stupid, right? You wouldn't
now,
appreciate that. You would say
only
some
get one.
some network engineers
Hey.
don't have good taste, like slow-mo. No, I'm joking.
Now, I will say, as a person who deals with network engineers all the time, I would say I kind of agree with you in certain instances.
You see what I'm
we
talking
will not
about?
slander them right now because us architects need them engineers. Keep it moving. Let's go.
Oh,
so can I retort to what you just said?
Please, Paris, go ahead. Because
So
he's taking it to a slanderous direction. Come on. Let's bring it back on top.
Yeah, no, but I actually agree with that. I think the entire system is broken personally. I don't like the quote unquote Metacritic thing because there's too many things that are financially based around the number score that comes off of that, right? There's bonuses tied to it. There's all kind of weird things that happen with that. So even Kind of Funny has now switched to a score system, but they're doing that in response to that's obviously what people want. But at the end of the day, a review is just an opinion. That's all it is. It's just an opinion. You don't have to agree with it. It is just an opinion. My only thing is when you give said opinion, back it up with the reasons why. That's it. That's it. Don't just go, well, this game is terrible. Well, why? I don't know. I just think it's terrible.
I just don't like it.
Review. Yes.
Give us a reason why you don't like it. Even if we don't agree, at least it makes it an interesting conversation, at least interesting something to think about because somebody gave you a reason. Yeah.
And that's my only thing. It's
absolutely.
It's just a thing of everyone is entitled to their opinion. And if anything, I think it's interesting when you sometimes have reviews from people that aren't necessarily a fan of that genre because you're getting a different perspective on it. But it's so hard to do that now because if that person ultimately didn't like it because that's a genre that they're not a fan of, now you think they have an agenda against the game. When we should just be having those opinions and those different perspectives, because I think it does open up a conversation. It gives you a different point of view about the things that we play and enjoy.
Let me get Enigmatic Dreams.
Definitely get that one.
$2 super chat from Enigmatic Dreams. See, this is why I like Everborn. This is why Everborn is my favorite. K, shaking my head. Now, Enigmatic Dreams, you my boy, but I may have to mute you.
And a scholar.
If you keep with the unnecessary slander, you know what? We're gonna move forward because this is a great conversation, but we have other conversations to be had before we end this. And I know that Paris is nonplussed with the ABK chat. So before we get to that ABK chat, like again, I want to make sure that all the other talk is out the way before Paris can be like, "Oh, you're talking ABK, I'm out." So before we get to the ABK talk, and I know we've been having a talk about this back and forth about reviews and should there be scores, and I think hasn't that been a conversation we've had for a long time about removing scores? Like even certain sites have done so, but in doing so, what did it do? It kind of screwed them because then they were not counted among Metacritic where they want to be counted. So
because they want to get the traffic from.
That's right.
I get it.
It's broken, but they can't help.
It's a vicious cycle. It's a vicious cycle.
Exactly. So before we move on, though, let me.
I have one thing I want to add.
Please.
That may dovetail. So you say if we do it before or after whatever you are talking about.
Go ahead.
This is tangentially ABK related, but not really.
Okay.
Something that came up in that is that Microsoft made Indiana Jones an exclusive, and it was going to be multiplat. Yes. And I want to know before Paris goes what he thinks. What he thinks of that. Forget about ABK. What do you think about Indiana Jones and it being made to be an exclusive? And then what kind of game the panel thinks Indiana Jones should be? Should it be a Laura Croft and Nathan Drake clone who are a clone of Indiana Jones, or should it do something completely different?
Should it be Ouroboros, the snake eating its own tail, or should they come on speak something different? Because this will literally be a snake eating its own tail if they go the Uncharted route. And I guess we'll start with you at Paris. Go ahead.
Yeah. So in my opinion on it being exclusive, it's business. The fact that, and I'm pretty sure that's what Phil Spencer was saying yesterday, that When they acquired Bethesda, originally it was going to be multi-platform, but they wanted to get it on Game Pass, and that basically evolved into it becoming an exclusive title. And clearly Disney was open to doing it. So whatever number was thrown at them, Disney accepted it. And now it's going to be on Game Pass day one. It's going to be exclusive to the platform. And he obviously used the example that we see on the other side with PlayStation with Spider-Man. So it's not a shock that it happened. It's just business. They are trying to leverage a well-known IP, a quote-unquote action adventure movie IP, into their own portfolio to get more people into their subscription service and into their ecosystem. So yeah, it's just business. Not surprised at all. As for what the game is going to be, coming from Machine Games and knowing their legacy and their history, I mean, going all the way back to, I believe their roots do go back to Riddick. Am I not mistaken?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. You're right. Yes.
So going all the way back to that, and obviously the work that we've seen them do recently with the Wolfenstein franchise, I'm not expecting it to be first person. I'm expecting it to be third person, but I do not want an Uncharted clone. Do something different with Indiana Jones that has it stand out from just like, oh, they just replaced Nathan Drake with Indiana Jones, and it's the same thing. So I'm hopeful that they do something unique with the gameplay and kind of lean into that Machine Games, legacy of storytelling and, just some of the gameplay loop that they've been able to introduce.
Brisket, what about you? So let me flip it a little bit differently on you here, Brisket. Like you and I have chatted in the background, right? And we've talked about how we want Microsoft to be a bit more aggressive, right? We never thought of a day, because they are always hey, we pay our debts. Hey, if we have a contract, we adhere to the contract. It looks like this is a situation where they put some money on the scales and went, nah, this is ours. What do you think, sir?
Yeah, I think it would have been a misstep if they didn't do that. And it is just business. And I'm not going to dive into the APK stuff because obviously Paris will just exit stage left. But
it's fine. Yeah, it's fine. I will gracefully exit when I'm like, ugh, I don't want to talk about this. Say whatever you want.
But yeah, look, I think it doesn't match. I mean, Phil Spencer said, PlayStation's got Spider-Man. It doesn't match that as an IP. I think that sort of time has passed.
Well, that will depend on the execution, though. I understand like dollar for dollar wise, but if they give us like a full sort of cinematic, but also like real kind of new gameplay experience, I think they could do more for the Indiana Jones franchise than the new movie will.
Yeah, absolutely. And apparently, from what I've heard from the movie, that's definitely true.
Exactly.
What Paris was saying is I think extremely hard to do when you talk about a Nathan Drake clone. Is Nathan Drake was a clone of Indiana Jones. That's a really a big ask of a studio to try to flip that gameplay loop into something that's a bit different. I would be happy with a Nathan Drake clone, to be completely honest. I think Xbox needs that over-the-shoulder third-person action adventure. If it's first-person, I will be disappointed. But one thing that's a massive misstep that was huge, and I was hoping that it was going to be at the showcase, was that music played and Harrison Ford stepping out on the stage. Could you imagine that?
Really, though?
Well,
you do realize what would have happened, right? You know what would have happened, right, Risk It? It would have been like half the audience would have been shocked, and the other half would have been like, who's Grandpa?
No, everybody knows who Harrison Ford is. Stop it.
Yeah, but like this is how we find out about Indiana Jones. That is the letdown.
Yes, that does suck. But on the Harrison Ford thing, this is actually, maybe this will be controversial, maybe it won't. I don't think they shouldn't use Harrison Ford as the character model. I don't think they will, because I don't think they can afford that. But that should not be that shouldn't be like a big controversy thing.
I agree.
Harrison Ford should
I agree with you. They should separate Harrison
It's called
from
Indiana Jones.
Okay.
Indiana Jones should be in the game.
Indiana Jones should be an IP that lives beyond the 70-year-old man, and he's based on the movie. It's looking like
it's a video game. He don't have to be 70 years old in this game.
I hear you, but the point is, this IP is not him. You can have another individual play the IP. You don't need him.
You cannot have somebody else play Harrison Ford, Indiana Jones, while Harrison Ford is still alive.
So let me be clear. Let me be clear.
Action.
Let me be clear here. The reason why I say that is because I feel like Harrison Ford is a rock star to us graybeards, and a lot of us really want that, and I do too. Just like we love when we hear the voice of Master Chief. Just like we love when we hear the voice of what do you call it, Splinter Cell. But a lot of new school gamers in here who are outnumbering us don't have the same feeling for this IP or this specific.
Yeah, but they're not going to be the ones buying this. We are.
Exactly. They don't care about the IP anyway.
I still don't think we should get bent out of shape when inevitably it's not Harrison Ford as the model.
First of
all,
you
got to make it their own.
Yes. First of all, you don't know that. We all talk about how Microsoft got deep pockets. You tell me they ain't got deep enough pockets to get Harrison Ford.
We also learned that Microsoft is not in the business of throwing away money.
Yeah, if it's Disney. And then Disney's like, well, we don't want to, we couldn't get Harrison to do this. Fine.
Yeah.
Fine at that point. But it should not be on Machine Games and Bethesda saying, we don't think we want Harrison Ford in this. We think we want to go in a different direction. Like I think the very best direction for the game, if you can actually make it happen, is have Harrison Ford circa Temple of Doom.
Slow. Look at the reviews Jones coming out right now. They I suspect after seeing the reviews of this game of the movie, Machine Games is either happy they're not releasing close, or they should be thinking about separating.
Well, they haven't been a good Indiana Jones movie since the 90s. So
exactly.
So why can't they use the man's voice, right? So like we've got tech. He doesn't need to be in the studio.
Exactly.
There's plenty of ways that you could get around actually using Harrison Ford. You could license his voice, and then it's a video game. The man doesn't need to act, right?
Yeah, he doesn't have to do the mocap. Get some other guy that was around the same height and build as him when he was young, and let him do it. Freaking Abby in The Last of Us Part 2 is 3 different people coming together for one character. You can make it happen. You don't have to have 80-year-old Harrison Ford throwing out his hip, trying to do a barrel roll.
This is why I was saying that. This is why I was saying that. That's right.
Regardless of the amount of work he has to do, that will not stop his agents from saying he wants $20 million plus points on the back end.
Give him 20 million. It's a AAA game.
Whatever
give him $20 million. Fine.
20 million is still 20 million. Whatever it is, right? Whether he's in it or he's not, I think we need to prepare ourselves for the fact that he may not be in it, and we shouldn't dock the game because of that. That's all I'm saying, and I'm just saying I'm saying it now. So when it inevitably happens,
it better be epic if he's not in it. It
what
better
about
be
have you guys real quick?
Paris,
have
what
you
does
guys
Paris
played
think about
Crime
this?
Boss? Have you guys played
this?
Crime Boss? Real quick. Have you guys?
None of those actors were Harrison Ford, but go ahead.
But sure, but they're not voice
like they
actors.
can get
they're
Danny
actors
Trejo, if that's what you want. If you want Danny Trejo in there, sure.
They are not voice actors. They are actors. So like if you hear how Chuck Norris phoned it in, it makes me kind of go, I'm not sure I want Harrison Ford to phone it in. Paris, what are your thoughts, sir? Do you think that they should make sure that Harrison Ford is a voice here or not?
No, they don't need Harrison Ford to be the voice. You can model the character to have somewhat of his likeness. I think you want to keep that, but I don't need Harrison Ford specifically involved in this project. I think with the movie coming out right now, and we know it's not going to do well, the fact that it isn't coming out anytime now is a good thing, because I think they can get some space away from it.
Distance themselves.
If Disney, I'm pretty sure Disney wants to reestablish his IP, because the truth of the matter is Indiana Jones does not have the name or brand recognition anywhere close to something like a Spider-Man or a Star Wars. So them making exclusive here, going to Xbox, it's a risk for both of them, because we have no idea if this game is going to be a big hit or not. So I want to just see what Machine Games does with it. Let them create their own identity for it. Have it stand out. This is why I say, in my opinion, I don't want an Uncharted clone. I don't need a Tomb Raider clone. I would love for this to stand on its own. Maybe I'm sure it's going to. Yeah. I'm sure it's going to borrow some elements.
Imagine if they wanted to do this, but in 2023, without any of the history that we know of, what would it look like? That's what we're hoping for.
What Jaffe had a very interesting idea on what he thinks, where he was like, he doesn't want it to be a Tomb Raider Uncharted clone, because if that's all you have, it's fine. It's not new, but you really would have to outdo what Naughty Dog did and what Crystal Dynamics did, and that is a tall order if you're going to out movie them. Right.
True.
But what he was saying is, maybe something like it's more geared around puzzle solving, because that's kind of what Indy does. Solves the puzzle, finds the treasure. Maybe that's a better way to
but
go
you do realize though that Uncharted also did steal a key to Indiana Jones, which is the cinematics of it all, right? It was a very cinematic kind of a movie, which was then translated to a game. If you do this and you don't make it as cinematic as Indy was, which then of course now gets compared to Uncharted, it kind of loses the thread a bit on that Indiana Jonesness. I have a feeling that the key here is that Naughty Dog was just so good in distilling the essence of Indiana Jones into their game that it makes it harder for someone to recreate Indy because they kind of stolen all that juice. What do you think?
I did want to say real quick, Harrison Ford said in an interview on May 3rd that he was done playing this character completely after doing the movie Dial of Destiny. So you guys are probably right that we're not going to get Harrison Ford to do the game because he's done. When Harrison Ford says he's done playing a character,
he's done. Yes,
he is not lying. He is done playing that
you
character.
You can't offer him money. He's 90 or 80, whatever.
He doesn't care about the money.
He does not care about what money he's
Okay, now with that said, I will amend what I'm saying. I would then double down on the one part I did say where I said that if you're not going to have him in it, it has to be epic. It has to be like an awesome epic game where the quality of the game is so high that it doesn't matter that we don't have Harrison Ford's voice.
I'm sorry, Slow, but do you think Harrison Ford today would be an amazing voice actor? I think that's a low bar to clear.
Well, to be fair, right? You actually don't need him as the voice actor. Go back to Halo 5 where you had
Luke Cage,
the actor playing Locke.
Yes, he was.
And
yes.
I just found this out that was not the
Nigerian actor. I've known that for a long time.
He just did the
character model.
He just did the
character model.
Right.
Yeah,
that's
but,
right.
And I don't even think he did the mocap.
Yeah, no, he didn't. It was the original. The original did the mocap, and then the actor did the rest. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So what I do think is that you should still have Indiana Jones, the character, in the game, because then, like, even for newer people, younger kids who don't know anything about it, they're just like, why is this called Indiana Jones? The person, I'm not playing Indiana Jones. Who is Indiana Jones?
This is why I was like, why is Grandpa on stage?
What if your character is not Indy? Indy's in the world.
I mean, it's on the title.
Don't do that, Skip.
You gotta go young Indy. You gotta go young Indy, and so young that it says it makes sense that Harrison Ford wouldn't voice this because he's got
so
old
basically
man
you're
voice.
saying we should get Shia LaBeouf.
No.
Let's get Shia LaBeouf to do the voice.
No,
River Phoenix. You get a River
Do not
Phoenix.
put that evil onto the world, man. Do not put that evil onto the world. That's ridiculous.
Freaking not. Shia LaBeouf would probably end up getting this game shut down with the way he.
Gentlemen, let me catch up on a few of these super chats and let's let Paris out because I think it's time for him to go.
Before you do that, I just want to say all of this is much to do about nothing. It's going to be a first-person shooter, and we're going to call it a day, and we're never going to see Indy's face. But go ahead.
Oh my God, no.
So Voidlock with a $2 super chat saying Hi-Fi Rush is a better AAA game than Redfall. Voidlock,
Hi-Fi Rush is a better AAA game than most games that came out this year.
I agree with you, Voidlock. What I wish they had done
Especially
I wish they had shadow dropped Redfall and given Hi-Fi Rush the Redfall budget for marketing. That's what I wish they had done. But I
wish they would have just canceled Redfall. Forget a shadow drop.
You and the developers alike.
Yeah.
Sifu Poetic X with a $2 super chat saying Indiana Jones / Creation Engine. I guess he wants Indiana Jones to be made in the Creation Engine. I don't know about that.
Z Black Rider says Tom Holland is Indy.
yeah, exactly. We
all know it's going to be Chris Pratt, though, right?
No, it's not.
Okay,
stop it. Jacob Novik with $100. What was it? 100 SEK, which is a Swedish krona. Thank you so much. He says yes, Microsoft can easily provide funding for for the Harrison model, but what happens if a second and even a third installment is made and Ford, who is in his 80s, played the voices of Indy in the first game, but then dies later. Yeah.
Well, that got dark. What are we doing?
I know. Got very dark.
It's a reality, man. Like George R.R. Martin never finishing Game of Thrones.
Stop it. He's still alive. Aaron, what is $27? Let's turn this out. Seek Krona. Thank you so much for the support. He says machine games do know how to write humor, though, in his opinion. They definitely do. True. They definitely do. I'm just waiting for
games
for
are hilarious.
Again. Absolutely.
I just want to say this one thing with the whole how we learned about this. Mm-hmm. I pictured Phil completing the ZeniMax deal, mm-hmm. and then Pete Hines walked up to him with this contract for multi-platform. Like Ned Stark walked up what's her name, Cersei. Uh-huh. Like I have the paper right here confirming that I'm gonna burn things in his stead, and then Phil looks at it and just tears the paper up. But so you brought up the name, and I want to talk about Pete Hines, but we'll do that after the super chat from Dave Ramos, $2, saying "Do it." Hashtag Shia LaBeouf. No, Dave Ramos, I appreciate. I'm gonna be upset. Stop putting that evil into the world. Stop putting that evil into the world. And you're going to start Paris the Lilly, game by dodging explosions by hiding in a refrigerator.
Mr. Paris Lilly, it has been an honor. It has been a pleasure. We didn't invite you officially on, but you just jumped in and you had a great time. We had a great time with you. We will have you officially on soon, hopefully. Tell the fine people where they can keep up with your ongoings. Thank you again so much for being here.
No, first and foremost, thank you for bringing me up. And yes, I think 2 weeks? 2 weeks I'm officially coming on. Yeah. So looking forward to that. Great conversation. I love the back and forth. I definitely don't need everybody agreeing with my opinions, but that's what makes conversation good, is getting those different perspectives and doing the back and forth. As far as where you can find me, I am on Gamertag Radio. I am over at Kind of Funny on the Xcast, and you can find me on social media at Vicious696.
Thank you for being here, man. We appreciate you being here. We will catch you again in 2 weeks. Now, of course, folks, I don't have to tell you that. Go ahead.
I want to say one thing to Paris, though. I need you to be careful out here in these streets, because the Sonic stands are worse than the Beehive. You keep on with that Sonic slander. You do it at your own risk. That's all.
I do actually have one last question for Paris as well.
Sure.
Before you go.
Okay. Yes.
You don't know who I am, do you? No, I mean.
That was hilarious, bro. That was hilarious. I'm like, that's why I looked at you like you lost your mind. I'm like, of course I know who you are. What are you talking about? Can I give one shameless plug? I have one shameless plug.
Please. Yeah, excellent. Go ahead.
So earlier this week on the Kind of Funny Xcast, we were joined
by the God himself.
Yes, by Todd Howard, and we talked to him about Starfield. So it is very rare to get Todd Howard to do an interview. So the fact that he chose us to be the platform to come on to talk about his game, we really appreciated it. And if you've not checked it out, give it a listen, because we got some few good nuggets of info out of it. And damn you, Jez, for the fishing question.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. Yeah. It was great having you on, sir.
So Paris, I don't know if you saw this, but there's this big thread going around, like, what are you going to name your ship in Starfield? And I said the Event Horizon.
Yes, I saw your tweet.
Yes. And you know what I'm talking about.
That is a great one. Yeah.
Yes. That is one of the most underrated sci-fi horror movies ever. Like that movie does not get the love that it should. It is fantastic. Larry Fishburne is great in it.
And I
feel like it's the motivation behind Dead Space. Honestly, if you played the first Dead Space game, right. Yeah, they basically just watched Event Horizon as they wrote the story.
I can't remember the creator, but he actually said that. He cited that movie as one of the inspirations. Event Horizons.
Okay,
so you bang.
Mine will just be Nebuchadnezzar. It is what it is.
Nebuchadnezzar. Yes, that's the other one I was gonna say.
Yes, I'm never going anywhere. And I say it the African way, Nebuchadnezzar. That's how you say it. The African way.
Well, mine
Nebuchadnezzar. Yes,
mine will be the Bebop.
Oh, there you go. That's what's up. That's great. One last tip that I've been spreading. I have been spreading this everywhere. I will say it to Everbond. I will say it to Paris Lilly in the hopes that someone hears me and that this happens one day. I want to 3D print out my ship IRL. I want to build my ship inside Starfield. I want to pay. Give me, show me that meme. I want to print it IRL and have it on my desk after I've built it. Hopefully that happens one day.
Paris, we need you to pass that message to Todd. He could have $1 billion enterprise on his hands where people make their ships and then they can export the 3D model and have it
exactly my point.
I think being serious for a second, if this game is everything that we're assuming and think it's going to be at this point, I see that. I see something like that happening.
Exactly.
I see the merchandising for this being off the charts. I really do.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for being here, Paris. We will have you back on as you know. He'll be back in 2 weeks. We'll have him on officially for the whole show. It'll be great. But let us move on to some more. Let's move on to what we're here to talk about, because I know, and he's out, of course. You see, I know that's what you guys are here for. But before we get there, let me shout out to my other co-host, the man who with me is embarking on that PCMR journey, Mr. John Wolf. Cheap plug, our show is on Monday nights,
fantastic
7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, called the Gamers Playground. He says, with a $2 super chat, I hear Jonathan Nolan is available to play Indy. that would be Nolan North would be interesting as Indy.
Nolan even though North can impersonate people so well.
Anybody.
He did. Okay, so with Destiny, I hate Destiny, but here's the Destiny comment. What's the guy that played Kate Six, the actor?
Of course. What do you call it? Who also is in the Halo franchise as well?
Yes, yeah. What is his name?
Hashtag my Nathan Drake.
Yeah, that guy, right? So that guy wanted too much money. Bungie couldn't bring him back for their next expansion. Nolan North filled in. That's why they killed this character off, right? But Nolan North filled in. Nolan North
talking Nathan Fillion, by the way.
Nathan Fillion, thank you. Nolan North filled in as and people saying he was a horrible Nathan Fillion stand-in. I disagree completely. He sounded just like him, and a lot of people didn't even know that Nathan Fillion didn't play that role. It wasn't him. So he's very good at impersonating voices. So if they wanted to get him for this, it would make sense. If they wanted a indie,
I do agree. I think like it's cool. It's cool that that we get the big guys and all that. But when it comes to making a game, like the best games have so much time and effort put into them. I don't think, unless you're a celebrity who's really about your games, more often than not, they're only good for a cameo spot. So playing like indie in the game indie, I think they should have a professional voice actor, not like a 70-year-old man who himself like already like gives short shrift to his characters, right? We've already seen him go, I don't want to play this anymore, and then they force him to play through contracts, and he phones it in. You think he's gonna put his best foot forward here? I don't know, right? So I would rather somebody who really, really like wants this to be his shot, earn his place. That would make for a better contract, better game, better emotion, better performance, in my humble opinion. But okay, let us move forward because we are definitely going to start talking more ABK-ness, as it were. Let's switch to what's going on. There's a lot that has happened in that realm, right? For those who know, you've been able to watch. Watch and listen. To my understanding, there have been 100. A space for 100 video calls on their Zoom call for the FTC's live stream of the courtroom, and then 1,000 limit for audio. So I would say most of us who have gotten to hear it, be a part of it, have listened to it, but a select few have been able to watch it. So I will start with you, Mr. Slow-Mo Backslap. I'm sure you've been paying attention to the moving and shaking here. Let's give your overall take when you during this latest week of back and forth with what was it, a few days ago with Sarah Bond and with Matt Booty and with there was Sarah Bond, there was Matt Booty and one other gentleman.
Pete Hines.
Pete Hines, there we go. And then of course the day after we had Phil Spencer, and I think we had. Do we have Amy Hood or not yet? I think Amy Hood is still to come.
Wasn't there somebody that like they had to close the court or something? Because
that may have been Amy Hood. Yes, that was Amy Hood because that was financials. What do you think?
Keep it a bug with you. I am like probably almost as
that was not Amy Hood, by the way. Sorry, Slow-Mo. It wasn't Amy Hood.
Oh, so the one that was in closed doors was not Amy Hood.
No, that was it was a finance person.
Okay, but it wasn't Amy.
I think they were specific to Xbox, but it wasn't.
So
it was
she
not
says
Amy.
Lord Hood was the one.
I'm almost as done with this topic as Paris is, honestly. Like I'm not super engaged in it. I'm more along like, hey yo, what's the verdict, bro? Like that's where I'm at, right? So like,
wake me up when they're done.
Right now, I have been like, I kind of like perk up when certain things, like when the Indiana Jones news came out, when you know certain things that Phil Spencer said that like people were like, oh, really? Like when he talked about how PlayStation trying to money hat Starfield really kind of like caused them to decide that go ahead and purchase Cinemax Media. Like I perked up for little things like that, and I found that stuff very fascinating. I always love, like, I think out of all the drama that we get from these kind of things, like I remember with the Epic Game Store or Epic Games versus Apple thing, like I found the most fascinating thing about that was just all the tea that got spilled out in the emails about the stuff that was going on behind the scenes. For me, that's all I really care about. So like, what's the tea? And then what's the verdict? Because I want this to be over with ASAP. And so I did find some of that stuff fascinating, although for the most part, I wasn't like trying to tune in or listen or watch or anything. I didn't I wasn't that engaged with
now,
it.
Slow-Mo.
Yo.
So one of the other things that I don't know if you picked up on this that was confirmed here under oath is that unlike many other businesses at Microsoft, even though they don't report these numbers, Xbox actually
has to be profitable. Otherwise,
they have their own separate P&L statement, and they are a profitable business, and they have to operate within the parameters of the numbers that their business does. And I know for the last, I don't know how many years, everybody was saying, oh, it's not a profitable business, they're losing money, they don't make any money, not really realizing that, like, it just from a revenue perspective, they do make more than Nintendo. Now we don't know. Obviously, I think Nintendo's margins are higher.
Very much so.
What'd you say?
Nintendo's margins are very, very much so higher. But yeah, you're right. On the overall revenue annually revenue basis, they make a little bit. Well, prior to this acquisition, they made a little bit more than Nintendo would make annually on revenue, which is, if you look that stuff up, you look at it like, it's been like that for a few years now. So it's like, what you're saying is accurate. Yeah.
Every time I brought that up, you would have the Twitter financial analysts who literally based off nothing would be like, yeah, but they don't make no money. They're not profitable.
Yeah, but you didn't need to be crunching the numbers to look at the moves that they're making. They spend a company doesn't just go, yeah, here's 3 billion, here's 68 billion, go buy something,
70 billion,
and hopefully this will make us profitable. That's not how that shit works. It's like,
oh, you are 20 profitable. Years, right?
You're bringing in money. Let's give you some more money to bring in some more money. That's how that works. Like, so
absolutely.
So Risk It, to your point, right? We have a nickname for Satya Nadella, and that is Eddie Scissors. When there is a sign something's not making money, he has no problem shutting it down. Yep. He is responsible for killing Windows Phone, for killing
with him becoming the CEO, none of the sacred cows that used to exist at Microsoft exist anymore. If you're not showing numbers, if you're not doing what you're supposed to do, doesn't matter who you are, what you are, doesn't matter if it's the pedigree of the company, oh, you were part of the company, doesn't matter, you're gone.
He even got rid of this idea about everything being having to be tied into Windows, right? Like,
which was a good thing.
Yep, absolutely. But Mixer, you wasn't making money, get out of here. So why do we think that he would cut all these things but run a charity for Xbox?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Well,
is Phil that magical in his wordplay that he's able to fool this man who has no problems cutting the most sacred of cows that Microsoft has had for years? Doubtful.
No, it's It's just stupid. It is stupidity. I mean, I've had there's an Aussie PlayStation guy on Twitter. I've had many back and forths. He's a CFO, or he says he is. We've had a lot of back and forths and talks about but a lot of the things that they like to discount is that when they talk about Game Pass, they remove that as a separate thing, and that's the only thing that exists, and it's not profitable, or it's just breaking even, or whatever the narrative is this week. But what I mean, if you listen to Phil, if you listen to, and these guys can't say these things and just off the cuff and them not be true, because there's consequences.
That's a real quick aside there, Riskit. Just let's fill that in a little bit more. C-level executives speak and it moves markets. You saw that when they were speaking, when they were on the witness stand, and you started seeing the Activision stock rise. They speak and it moves markets. So yeah, that doesn't mean that everything they say has to be 100% true every single time. They can have wordplay and kind of, finagle their way out of making a definitive statement, but they can't lie. If you lie just like
that's what makes this different than, say, like an interview where they're doing an interview and they say, "Oh yeah, we doing great in this market," or
people
whatever.
Talk a lot of people talk a lot of smack about Microsoft and about Phil Spencer. He cannot just bold face lie, because if he does, it causes a lot of static.
And even within an interview, like, he can't make a definitive statement about something that's not true. So because there's shareholders to answer to, they're not going to be happy if, like, hang on a minute, we're sitting here and we're doing the financials, and you said it was
paid
profitable
to be the mouthpiece. He cannot lie.
Also,
exactly
you don't think the FTC lawyers would have been right there? You're lying on the stand. We have your numbers.
Exactly that. And then the other thing that
there were other times where they would just like choose to, like, they will find a way to not answer while also not lying. So it would be like a good PR way of kind of skirting the answer without having to reveal something that would be potentially a problem for them later on. As far
people equate that as lying, but it's not lying. It's being strategic, because you don't have that toolkit. You, normal man, can lie whenever you want. When Phil Spencer's in front of somebody, he does not have the lie tool. He cannot do that. It'll be big trouble if he does.
So when they say, is this game going to be exclusive to Xbox? And they say, hey, that's like 7-8 years from now. And we don't know what consoles are going to be out then, or what they're even called. So we don't know. They know, but they can't. But that gives them an out from actually having to say on the, at this time it's going to be exclusive.
That's probably not on
benefit them.
So go ahead,
It's probably not on paper, right? Like that won't be on paper. But what I was going to say is that a lot of these so-called armchair analysts don't look at the fact that the traditional sales model is still the biggest revenue for Microsoft when it comes to their software. Not Microsoft, Xbox, when it comes to their software. That's their biggest revenue stream. It's not Game Pass.
And they're still making money.
And they're making money off those traditional sales, and they're really clever with it. And I think it's sort of an underhanded thing that they do with these early releases, where you buy the game and then you can play for 4 days before everyone gets it on Game Pass. I hate that shit, but it's clever. And it drives traditional sales models, and it pisses me off because I get.
You hate it because it works for you. It gets you, doesn't it? Yes, every time. I know.
Every time. And most of us hardcore gamers, it will get. So when you need to look at the business as a whole, and exactly as you said, I mean, it's just stupid to think that they're not profitable. They've said it many, many times. Then they've also backed that up with saying that Game Pass is now profitable. They've backed that up. Mr. Boomstick, how you doing, bud?
Yes, sir. Shout out to Mr. Boomstick with a $5 super chat. He said the FTC was destroyed, but the MVP is Sarah Bond. If she's not the next head of Xbox gaming after Phil, the world will never be right. Sir, on that I agree with you.
Now, Slow-Mo, I don't know if you heard the Sarah Bond testimony, but when
I didn't hear anybody's testimony. I just kind of got the cliff notes from everyone else.
Real quick.
No, you actually might want to listen to this one.
You need to listen to that one, yes, because before Sarah Bond, right? And let's be clear, and before I do that, Highlander 001, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. He said the Rick Moranis attorney character from Ghostbusters 2 was a better attorney than the FTC legal team facing Microsoft in court. I don't disagree with you on that, sir. Real quick. So Slow, He's right. You may want to find a way of listening to that.
Anytime I see Sarah Bond, I want to listen to her. So that's something I'll go check.
Bro, see, people give her short shrift, I think, sometimes because she has a certain look and she has a certain presentation. We listened to this audio only. She was the best thing all day. And that was after the booty had showed up. Yes, we'll talk about the booty. And that was after Pete Hines had showed up. And oh boy, the two of them needed help to the point where the Microsoft team, Sarah Bond, wasn't supposed to be speaking that day. They asked to have her jump the line and speak, and she literally cleaned it all. Like, she cleaned it.
Was Matt Booty that bad? Was the booty that flat?
Actually, it was Pete Hines.
Actually, it was Hines.
It was Matt.
Matt Booty, like, he wasn't great, but he didn't give them anything, right?
Yes.
He didn't
Hines
give them
was
any
all over the
gotchas.
place.
Hines might be a double agent.
Yes. Remember that Timur Hussein interview back in the day? Remember that Timur Hussein interview, Slow-Mo? Like the made hay back. Yeah, that was literally the noose that was wrung around his neck.
See, I didn't listen to it, but I said this today on Xbox Infinite. I didn't listen to it, but I spoke to the man in Pete Hines, and I kind of got a feel for him. And I think he's just a really nice dude. And I think that he probably got tripped up a little bit. Pete Hines was like, oh, hell yeah.
a little too nice for this kind of atmosphere, huh?
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah.
They even caught him in emails where he was asking questions that fanboys would ask. And they used it against him.
This was another thing, Slow-Mo. I don't know if you heard this. So apparently when Xbox announced the Activision deal, Pete Hines sent an email to his boss and said, I thought the plan was all exclusive. Why is he saying Activision games will be everywhere and we're exclusive?
Oh, Pete, you don't send that in the email, man. You call somebody up, man. Let's talk face to face, right? You do voice conversations and you have that kind of talk.
I have to say, honestly, Slow, right? You missed a lot. You missed a lot. That was good.
But Slow-Mo, when we talk about Sarah Bond, this is not the usual Sarah Bond appreciation half hour. But when I tell you this was like, you could have put this in a movie, the way she was up there, like. She like the lawyer was trying to catch her like, oh, I know what she's gonna say because I have the record from the testimony, right? So she was the FTC lawyer was like, oh, so tell me about SKUs.
So to fill that in real quick before you ever go on. Fill it in for you real quick, Everborn. What the lawyers have been doing is they had the initial interview where they interviewed them, and then like sometime later, now they're recapping. So every time they ask you a question, they're asking you a question because they know the answer already. And the minute you answer differently than your original testimony, they ask you to reference that original testimony and go, were you truthful then or truthful now? That's what they keep doing. So go ahead, Everborn.
And that's what they kept doing. So she was like, okay, Game Pass is a SKU. Sarah Bond was like, yeah, I'd call it that. And game streaming or xCloud is a SKU. Sarah Bond says, I suppose. And then she's like, well, and Microsoft has plans to heavily expand xCloud as a SKU. And Sarah Bond says, no. And then the lawyer is like flabbergasted.
She doesn't add anything to that.
No, she has nothing. She has nothing to it. She's like, no.
That's how you. I don't know if Sarah's ever been on the stand for anything before. I'm not insinuating anything, but that's how you don't give anything extra that they could then latch on to, and then giving them more ammo to have you on the stand even longer and
exactly
kind of prolong you potentially saying something that you shouldn't say. So the answer is no.
Wait a minute. So the FTC lawyer comes back. Can you look at article whatever in here where you say Microsoft has plans to greatly expand cloud gaming? She's like, was that true then? And Sarah Bond was like, yes. And then she's like, but you're saying no now. She's like, it's not still September, is it?
Boom!
Change.
Like,
there you go. Like,
seriously,
change.
like,
yeah.
You know, like, and that's what they kept doing. They kept trying to catch these guys in lies because you said this last time and now you're saying it here. But by and large, most of the you said this last time versus you said this here was 23 versus 2019. But they keep saying like as if between 2019 and 2023, like it has to be the exact same throughput and nothing could have changed that makes the context a little different there. And they kept doing that. Like every Phil Spencer's interview, like his interview yesterday, it was one potential gotcha after another potential gotcha after another, but they never actually got him. But every time they tried to.
Wait a minute. Is Phil the real dance moves? Is it Phil Dance Move Spencer? So slow-mo, you didn't hear yesterday. You're getting cliff notes, but if you were listening to, and I feel like we should go over the whole thing because I feel like we're all over the place. But I do want to.
BZ McNasty in the chat there. He says, "Does anyone know where I can listen to Sarah?" BZ, if you find out, I want to hear this stuff because I'm asleep when it goes down.
So what I will tell you is, you are not legally allowed to rebroadcast. We know this. So those of us that knew the broadcast sent links and we were in the Zoom call. But there are those among us, and not us as in you and us on this panel or probably in the chat, but there are those within the gaming community who put it upon themselves to broadcast the whole thing. So there's probably YouTube video.
It's probably
until it's taken down.
It's probably taken down at this point.
Yeah, they were live.
We don't know.
Live. There was one guy from the Dominican Republic that was.
They did it twice. I guess. The first day and the second day, right? The second day he caught some hay. I think people started recognizing he was there. But the whole first day was also recorded. So if you look around, you might, if you do some creative YouTube searches, you might actually find it if they haven't taken it down yet. But some of that stuff was super interesting. Like,
let's just say nothing is ever deleted from the internet.
Oh boy,
true.
Yes,
someone got it recorded somewhere.
So the other thing was the lawyer. This was the biggest thing that came out yesterday was that it came out that Jim Ryan always knew that they were never going to lose COD, and this is what he's on email saying this, right? But
Phil Spencer told us that over a year ago too. He said that when Jim Ryan first started talking the whole like they're going to take COD away kind of talk. He remember Phil's first response back to that was like, I thought we had the understanding here that that's not the case, and we've discussed this before. And then that's when like Jim Ryan was talking about people talking about private conversations kind of talk or something like that.
But this is worse than that, Slow-Mo. This is an email Jim Ryan is sending to the shareholders and his boss.
Yep.
Literally telling them it's not an exclusivity play. They're thinking bigger than that. We will have Call of Duty on our system for years to come. We will be fine. As a matter of fact, we'll be more than fine.
Right. And he sent that in January of 2022, which was like days after he had met with Bobby Kotick and Phil Spencer. So essentially, it's what we've always known about Jim, about this whole thing, that it was all posturing. It was all really to try to get the deal stopped, because stopping the deal is allowing him to kind of further beat down competition, which honestly is a lot of people in the chat aren't going to like this. That's his job too.
That's his job.
That is his job.
But is it the FTC's job to help him?
No,
that's
not the FTC's job to help him. No. He's doing his job. I don't think they're doing their job. Their job is to deal with potential antitrust issues. And if this isn't an antitrust issue, then no, I kind of think it's just like.
So Everborn, speak a bit
right now.
Everborn, speak a little bit to how far the FTC went to back Sony.
So this is why people have a problem with it, and then they say, "Oh, you're just a fanboy. You're backing $1 trillion corporation." It's funny enough; those are the people who are backing $100 billion corporation. Like, that gives them some moral high ground. Not to mention, before you get to all the people that are talking about, I'm muting the term FTC. people, why is it that the people that always want to mute the terms is when things are going good for Microsoft, but then in everybody's mentions when it's going good for the deal getting blocked? But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Now, what this is, and I'm not going to paraphrase. This is exactly what happened, Slow-mo. The lawyer on cross, well, this was after cross. So the FTC lawyer went to Phil Spencer while he was questioning him, and he said, "Are you willing to swear under oath that that Call of Duty will remain on PlayStation?" And Phil Spencer said, "Yes, no problem." And then he says, right, and then he's like, "But what about other games? Can you say that Diablo will always be on PlayStation? Are you going to swear under oath to that?"
So what he was trying to say, first, he was threading two needles. First, he threaded the needle and made sure to do so in like an hour of testimony that Phil Spencer is the decider in chief. He decides everything. So if Phil says it's exclusive, it's exclusive. If Phil says it's multi-plat, it's multi-plat. He hammered that in over and over and over and over again to make sure everyone understood that the man before you here was the decider in chief, right? And then the decider in chief says, "Yup, COD is on PlayStation."
And then he was like, "Do you have the authority
if I'm
to say
allowed?"
That?
Well, but see, this is what Phil said. Phil says, if PlayStation allows us, we will continue to put Call of Duty and subsequent past releases will stay, current releases will stay, future releases will come, is what Phil basically said, right? And so in one instance, that was like, okay, that's the end of it there. Is it not? But then the flip side, I think the lawyer kind of wasn't happy with that victory because that's not really what they want. They don't want him to commit to that. They then tried to then thread the needle and go, "Oh, really? There's so much more that happens before you can say yes or no. So now we're going to tie you and go, oh yeah, well, what about Diablo? What about all these other unachievable
but wait
things?
A minute.
Can you, Phil Spencer, just say like under oath that it will be, and the minute you say it, it has to be because you're the decider in chief. No, you can't, because you can't tie your company to it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's like they both said he could and both said he couldn't at the same time. It was
so here. Well, let me explain that a little bit more. So the goal of the FTC lawyer there was to get Phil to say, "No, I won't commit to this," so he can say, "Judge, yes. Look at him, say no." So when Phil says, "Yes, I'm swearing under oath," remember, you cannot lie under oath. You'll go to jail, right? Now, if Phil is saying, "I'm swearing under oath that Activision games will stay on PlayStation," the entire console argument for the FTC is gone.
Absolutely. That's it.
Right? You don't have it. So he kept trying to push forward to get Phil to say no to something. And he pushed so far, he was like, so you have this cloud agreement with the EU. Will that extend to PlayStation's cloud?
Yep.
And the judge got so pissed off, she was like, "You're done. I don't need that. You're not asking any more questions." She basically told him to sit his ass down.
Basically, yes.
The judge, right? And then he even when they were talking about Minecraft on PS5, like why there was no version of Minecraft for the PS5, Phil Spencer was like, "We didn't do a version of Minecraft for the PS5 because Sony didn't give us a dev kit."
Dev kits, yes.
And then the lawyer for the FTC was like, "So you punish Sony for not giving you a dev kit and didn't make a PS5 version for Minecraft?"
You can't make a version of the game without the dev kit.
Without the dev kit, exactly.
So,
right.
So it shows a lack of understanding of the video game industry on their part. It also kind of shows
don't get me wrong, it's not a lack of understanding. It was that lawyer, and let's be clear, the lawyer of the CMA that we saw before. Yeah, we've seen some lawyers for the FTC and we've seen the lawyers for the CMA. Some of them have been bumbling. This guy knew what he was talking about, and he was maliciously like moving and shaking. Like he knows what can and cannot be done. You could tell based on the way he was talking and how he was discussing this stuff. He knows the intricate processes that gaming require. He knows it. You can tell that.
Then why would
he was
say
depending
that,
he was depending on the lawyer, because remember, this is not a court of law. This is just the lady sitting next to you being convinced. It's all about convincing her. So he was betting, from my estimation, that she was not as knowledgeable in that as he is. So he used some obfuscating language, did some things that you like. It sounds above board, but if you know what you know about gaming, you know he's full of crap. He did it on purpose, hoping that
I don't think any of it sounded above board. Right. So what basically his entire strategy, the entire FTC strategy is these people can't be trusted.
Yeah, they're liars who lie, don't trust them. That's all the whole policy. They are liars who lie, don't trust them. But they got contracts, they got loopholes. But they're an American company, they're not to be trusted. But here's proof. Here's them literally speaking under oath. Oh, there's ways that they can get around it because they're liars who lie, don't trust them. That was literally the whole beginning, middle, and end.
But that only works if the judge buys it. And by her telling him to sit his ass down, I don't need that. Literally said, I don't need that. You're not asking any more questions.
And by the way,
see, that's where I'm really sort of lacking on knowledge of this, because when it came to the CMA, you're in that courtroom. You're not in there, but you're in that courtroom. You're listening. You're getting a feel for the judge, how the judge is feeling, how the judge is responding. How Phil's responding, how the lawyer's pointing these questions. To me, that sounds like complete incompetence that he would ask that question, because all it would take is Phil to turn around. I'd be interested if you guys could tell me what he said. Phil to turn around, you can't build a game for a console without its dev kit.
That's basically what Phil said.
Basically what he said. Yeah, that's basically what he said. But see, and I'm looking here, and shout out to The Verge and Tom Warren. They live tweeted the whole thing. Like, here's where that information that happened. I think this was the second time he did it.
Yeah, it's
the first time they pushed it. This is the second time where they cut off the FTC's questioning. The judge was just basically done with it because he kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and the judge saw where he was trying to go, and there was and as was said here, there was an audible oof from the audience when he was cut off.
And that's the thing, right? He started with, okay, you're swearing under oath that you'll give them COD. Yep. And then Phil said, he was like,
and that's swearing under oath, by the way. That swearing under oath was a question by the judge. So under cross-examination by Phil Spencer, by the Microsoft lawyer, they just came out and put it out there. Hey, do you swear unequivocally that you will put COD on PlayStation? And Phil Spencer basically said, if they allow me to, that is our plan. I swear unequivocally, I'll put it on PlayStation, right? And then we hear another voice, and we weren't sure what that voice was. That was the judge saying, hey, you are under oath now. Understand that you are under oath now. Do you swear that you will put it on PlayStation? And he said yes, right?
Right.
To your point, Riskit, we don't get as much from the FTC judge as we were getting from the CMA one, right? Because you could get a lot more of a sense from the CMA one, and especially in this instance where there's just audio only, you don't even get any kind of body language. But the few times that the judge has spoken up, cutting the person off when they were going too far, asking questions about, hey, you're under oath, and having Phil Spencer reaffirm it. All that, as small as it is, speaks to the side that Microsoft is winning this thing. At least that's what I saw. What do you think, Everborn?
So I don't.
They are convincing so much.
I don't want to say who's winning what yet, because we've been very surprised along the way.
Sure, you can't account for crazy, for sure.
Right.
But do you disagree with me, Everborn?
Like, some things can appear, to be in the bag.
Exactly.
And you just never know how things turn
and you never
out,
know,
especially when it comes to, let's be on how our government is.
Oh, most doubt.
Yeah, because we've seen judges appoint. I don't want to get political, but we've seen judges appointed to the Supreme Court that did all kinds of outlandish things that you would say, like, if anyone applied for a job and got admitted to doing certain things, they should not be allowed to have that job, and they were pushed through with no problem whatsoever. So you just never know with the U.S. government.
But when,
it does
when
appear.
you are right with someone, when a judge reaffirms that, and this is not from personal experience, but when they reaffirm that you are under oath, and that is intimating to that person.
Please
that,
risk
hey,
it.
If you
Elaborate.
do not,
where did you hear this before?
If you do not tell the truth right now, there is consequences for your lies, and we will hold you to account. That's intimated in that question, and that usually to a judge, they'll usually write something down after that. That usually to a judge is good enough to believe.
Yeah.
And one other thing.
So Everborn, to Everborn, I don't mean to cut you off. Real quick, like I'm speaking as a person who heard it. You also heard it. Am I right in that? Like, it sounded like, even though she isn't giving much away, and yes, you're absolutely right. We don't want to call it because you never know, but it did sound like it was convincing. Am I wrong?
You mean she was convinced?
She was convinced in that, yeah. Because
I mean,
she doesn't speak much, but when she does, it has been to either reaffirm what Microsoft is saying or stop them from being bullied by ridiculous FTC lawyer behavior.
Well, so the thing is that, like, I get that, but just like, look, my sister's a lawyer, right?
Yes.
I've heard war stories, whatever.
Yes.
Right.
My uncle's a lawyer. We hear
right.
You can never wait until the dust actually settles, because until it settles, there's a lot that can happen.
I'll be fit. My sister's a contract lawyer, by the way, and she's actually worked on a few video game contracts. But anyway,
stop talking. Continue.
Yes, I'll stop. But so the thing is, the judge at all times is going to ensure that you respect her courtroom, right?
Yep.
So if you are up there lying, she wants to make sure you know for a fact that you are telling a lie right now, and this is a thing. And if you are up there wasting the court's time, the judge is also going to be pissed off that you do that. That, I don't think it says one way or the other. Like, she jumped in because it was very clear that he was going beyond the bounds of what he was doing, because he was literally, right? And this is a real thing, right? Not once did the FTC mention the effects on customers for this. Their entire questioning was around how this will affect PlayStation, right? Even when the judge cut him off, this was after. So first he swore under oath about Call of Duty, and then when he tried to move it to other things, Phil said all that was being asked about was Call of Duty. So the lawyer said, well, what about other games? How about Diablo? And then that's when Beth Wilkinson's, Microsoft's lead counsel, jumped in and said, I object. And the judge told him to cut it out, and he was like, okay, I'm done. Go do your cross. And so when he gets to come back up and talk to Phil, he's like, I want to revisit this. So the judge already told him he was kind of out of line with the Diablo thing. And then he comes back and he says, you talked about your offers on cloud to the EU. Does that also apply to Sony's PlayStation Cloud? He didn't ask about other cloud providers.
Yep.
He said Sony's PlayStation Cloud. This is all it is about. Everything they are trying to do in terms of, we don't care that Sony has exclusives. Did you make any other exclusives? Why don't you put Halo on the PlayStation? Why don't you ensure that they'll also get Diablo, even though we've only been talking about Call of Duty in all of our complaints, right? You have a cloud agreement, but we want to know about Sony's cloud specifically. And at that point, the judge had to see, like, listen, you're literally doing contract negotiation for the market leader right now. Yeah. And there is no other way to put that. Right.
So, and the final questioning here was this right here. I don't think that's it. I'm going to cut off your questioning here, said Judge Corley, and it literally cut him off. And then everybody went, ooh, like it was a big deal. It definitely was.
And this is not me, Xbox fans saying, oh, they're trying to protect Sony. This is every word and every question that they have is literally geared around protecting Sony. They acknowledge Sony's the market leader. They acknowledge Sony has exclusives. They are now trying to secure more exclusives and more things for Sony that is outside of their complaint. And by the way, they've defined a market. This is not my market definition, right? This is the FTC's market definition, that there are only two players in this space. and this deal should be blocked because in the high performance console space, it could lead to a lessening of competition. If there's only 2 players and you want to stop Microsoft from acquiring Activision, you're literally doing it to protect the other player. Slow-mo, tell me I'm right or I'm wrong. Tell me I'm an Xbot.
You're an Xbot, but you're not wrong.
Yeah, but
there's
both of those,
2
actually.
people in the market.
You're definitely an Xbot, but yeah, I don't.
But you're not wrong.
I don't think you're wrong. Yeah, I mean, look, this. I think probably. I see some people talking about like market definitions and stuff like that. That's the one thing that, like, I even had an argument with the homie Enrique about that on Twitter yesterday, because I feel like even though, like I said, I wasn't listening to it, but I have always, ever since this thing started, found it like eye rolling whenever people, and it's been on both sides, have been using Nintendo as like this they're relevant when we want them to be relevant. They're relevant when it helps my argument. When they're not relevant when it doesn't help my argument. So we're going to exclude or include them at any point that we feel. So even though, like, whenever there's any kind of, prior to this acquisition, any kind of look of what the market is, Nintendo has always been included in any kind of pie chart or measurement or data about the console market, period.
Yep.
Nintendo has always been there. Yep. So
I mean, Slow-mo, what Phil pointed out is something that I said when we first started talking about this last year, was any place video game consoles are sold, Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft are literally vying for the same shelf space.
Yes.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, Phil said that. Yep. Phil said that during the FTC was trying to circumvent, trying to like change the wording around, based on the technology used and which is the 9th gen versus 8th gen versus 7th. Phil's like point blank. When a human goes into a store and is thinking about purchase decisions, you're on the shelf next to a PlayStation, next to an Xbox, next to a Switch, and those are the competitors, right? And that's how it framed the argument away from, oh well, it's only a two horse race. They spent a lot of time trying to prove why it is. They're trying to justify why it is the FTC took Switch out of the 3-horse race. And I mean, Everborn, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think at the end of the day they were successful in it. They kept hammering it, but they were not successful in it.
I don't know that they were successful in any of their points so far. Meaning, so these are the things that they have to say. One, you have to say, okay, these people can't be trusted because they said one thing here and they did another here. But once they got down into the context of everything, it was like, okay, Matt Booty said in the past, in 2019, why are we putting games on other people's platforms? Yep. But this is Matt Booty, the head of Xbox Game Studios, who the studio is trying to create an identity. He don't got games to put out, and the games they do have, they're putting it on other people. Of course he would say that. Yeah. It is his job to say he wants to put Sony out of business. That doesn't mean they actually get put out of business. But as the head of, you're not the head of Microsoft. You're not even the head of the whole division. You're the head of Xbox Game Studios. Your job is to compete. And Sony's job is to do the same thing. Right?
They tried to get him on that. When what's the day? When Nvidia GeForce Now opened their doors for the first time, right? And there was that small week, for those of us who remember, we had a great time where they just let all games loose. They tried to get him on that because during that small week, we then saw, of course, Ubisoft remove their games. Obviously, we saw Activision remove their games, and we saw Microsoft remove their games. We didn't know at the time, but during this whole hearing, they had Booty's email. The moment that floodgate was open, he was like, get the F out of here with all of this. Get our games off the service immediately, right? And the FTC tried to use that to make hay as to say, oh, you guys are giving them, you're saying how you're mea culpa and you want to work with everybody now, but this is what you said when they first put your games on there, which is such a malicious move because everybody took their games off of there. They were doing it without publishing agreements, right? But of course, the FTC was kind of quiet about that piece of the puzzle and went, oh, you guys were mean when NVIDIA first put your games on the service, and here's your email using expletives to prove that you were trying to take it away. It was all very malicious.
Can we then, as well, just as a side note, can we stop Twitter firing Matt Booty now? And can we stop Twitter firing Phil Spencer now? Because like when I heard that, I was like, "Fuck yeah, Matt."
Honestly,
yeah, the booty.
Honestly, risk it. If there's any Twitter firing to be done now, I think people should remove the Twitter firing BS from Phil. Remove the Twitter firing BS from the booty. It may start putting Twitter firing BS on old Mr. Hines, man, because he didn't do good. I'm sorry.
I think the Twitter firing stuff will stop when the games the must hit games start hitting, and you release Redfall and I mean, like, shoot, if Sony released Redfall, I think a lot of people would be like, Herman Hulse, get the F out of here. Like that was a Sony game.
I think Jim Ryan would say Herman Holtz, get out of here.
I think Herman Holtz would be gone.
Fire people behind.
We wouldn't even know that. It would be just like some other dude saying, "So I'm the head of Sony PlayStation Studios." You'd be like, "Who the freak?"
I don't even think we would find the body if it was Sony.
Okay, so gentlemen, there's a last piece that I want to get to.
All over the city. Go ahead.
There's a last piece I want to get to before we adjourn today. But let me catch you some super chats. Before I do, though, let me prime the pump. So, in addition to all the back and forth, and if you scroll through, you go to the Verge, you'll literally see there's 4 days of piece by piece by piece by piece, everything that was said.
We need to talk about the Stadia guy. We got to talk.
This is where I'm going, Mr. Everborn Saga. I want to talk about all the revelations, right? As Slow-Mo talked about, it's not even necessarily about what is being discussed. It's all about the tea that gets spilled afterwards, right?
Exactly.
And there was a lot of tea here, bro. There was a lot of tea, including the FTC insisting on bringing Stadia down. And then what happened? Stadia basically killed their argument. Stadia killed
that was basically argument. Like they turned the Google witness to a Microsoft character witness. Like
they came and killed it. Go ahead, everyone. Speak on that one.
So remember, like you guys understand that this whole thing hinges on these market definitions, right? Because if you make a market small enough, anything can be a monopoly, right? This is the reason they exclude Nintendo and they'll exclude PC, because if you include the entirety of gaming, then we don't meet certain thresholds to even be here, right?
That works that works better in a duopoly when you do that, but like it actually works. It sort of worked against them in this case, because when you strip it down to just Microsoft and PlayStation, they're actually worse off.
I understand excluding PC because the PC market is so like by its foundation so different than the console market. It's open-ended. Console is closed system, but excluding Nintendo makes no sense to me. On that.
Here's the thing about that. Like we can talk about that sort of like canonically or whatever, but you have to go, and what the judge has to go by, and what the FTC should be going by, and what Microsoft is trying to go by, is the legal standards in the Ninth Circuit based on previous case decisions of how you define a market. And when you the way you define a market is that there cannot be comparable substitutes. Meaning, if we're saying that PC is not a part of the same market as console, then you shouldn't really have people saying, I'm going to leave I'm going to, not play on Xbox or PlayStation, but I can also play those same games on PC. Therefore, it is a substitute, because you can go and choose and say, you know what, I'd prefer to build my PC and play here with better graphics. Or you can say, I'd prefer to play on PlayStation because all my friends are there, right? Or I prefer to play on Switch because, I can take it with me on the go. I prefer to play on Xbox because they've got Game Pass. So these things, because they are interchangeable in that way, and you're basically using the same content, if you're going by the law that Microsoft wants to cite, and again, there have been different cases, so the FTC cites a different rule, but the Microsoft's decision is newer, so that should supersede it. The legal definition, technically, at least what Microsoft wants to say, and you're going to see this when they do their finding of fact, is that you really should be counting all of those because the content that they use is interchangeable.
I do not. Wait, this is where I disagree, because PC is not the same content, because there is far more content on PC that never touches console. Just because a lot of the content on console also goes to PC,
but that's
really only, hold on, that's really only for Microsoft right now, where all that content is going to PC. Where PlayStation is coming, it's coming a little bit, but a lot of it's after the fact. With Nintendo, it's not going over there at all.
Yeah, but but those are only Nintendo and Sony first party, but those aren't the most games that sell. All the other games, which is 90+% of what gets sold on these things, are
90% of what's sold on PC is not the games.
No. 90% of what's sold on console.
Exactly that.
So even if you wanted to argue that console is not the same market as PC, PC is the same market as console. Because you can interchange these things.
No, it's not the same market as console. You
all
can't
of that
say
stuff
because
can exist on the console. So if you're saying that PC stuff, it's just not on the consoles because it hasn't been developed for those consoles. It can exist on those consoles for the most part. There's nothing on PC that you couldn't put on a console and vice versa. So they are the same market.
So because of cloud and GeForce Now and NextCloud, I could play console games on my mobile phone. Is now mobile phone part of the same market too?
No, because you're still technically playing a console game.
I'm still using that device to play it on that device.
But again, are you then saying that cloud is a separate market? Because people could argue that is only a delivery mechanism.
And they have argued. They are arguing that it's only a delivery mechanism.
This is what I'm saying.
That PC is a different market because before this case, as I said, when it came to Nintendo, and Nintendo always being part of the console market before this case, whenever there was any kind of charts that showed what is the breakdown, and usually it's been like 50% of revenue generated in gaming overall comes from mobile, and then it was like 30 to 20, 25 to 30% console, and then the rest of it's PC. That has always been the breakdown. This is what I'm talking about, where people start changing what's a market and what's in the market and stuff like that for the sake of an argument.
I want to be clear about what I'm saying, right? I'm specifically talking about the case and what will be the legal definition of a market, right? So again, Slow-Mo, you are talking about boots on the ground and what it is, what we know it to be, right? And I would agree with you that we say mobile, PC, console, all three of them are included. But if we're going by the legal definition of being interchangeable, and the fact that 90%, or these are the quotes this is what Microsoft says, of the top 30 games on Xbox for the last whatever time period they said, all but one of them were also available on PC.
That's because there are multiple markets.
Right.
Right. There are multiple different markets.
Right.
And they are in both of them.
Gentlemen,
because they're in both markets doesn't mean that it's now one market.
Wait a minute.
You guys should pump your brakes, because this is such a tumultuous topic that even the professionals haven't been able to solve it. And as Lucius Augustus points out in the chat, adding handhelds into the market blurs the lines even more. So the idea that you can separate the market, you could before, but more and more today, the world we live in, that market is very hard to separate.
Let me put it a different way. The question will be whether you define the market by the hardware or by the content that it is used. And if you look at hardware as just a means to experience the content, right? And by the way, that's what the CMA judge was saying, right? It's just you need some technology to access the content. And this whole case is about the content, right? So we're not breaking up how important COD is in its value. We're not saying we're only going to count the console revenue and leave out the other things. So again, I'm not saying we have the answer to this, but what I am saying is the judge is going to look at the legal definition, and it will be up to her interpretation whether she segments the market out by hardware or she segments it out by the software in question.
And that's fine. The judge will make that determination. I don't think it really matters in the grand scheme of things for this case, because whether PC is considered a part of the market, and I think it's really more important, of whether it is Nintendo, the judge considering Nintendo part of the console market. That's way more important than whether
that
PC
part
is
of
a part of this market or not. And I
absolutely Slow-mo. You're absolutely right. And on that part of it, I don't think FTC has made a righteous case, because every time they try to do that, both Microsoft in this hearing, both Microsoft and even the and that's what I brought out, even the character witness that they brought out that was supposed to be for the FTC, that was the Stadia guy, even he ruined that conversation when he spoke, because he basically made it a delivery method rather than a separate market. So every time they speak on it, they ruin what they are trying to actually establish.
So the Google guy was the FTC's witness.
Real quick. Let me catch up on 3 super chats, because they've been here and they've been waiting, and then we'll let you explain that part of it, because that part was super interesting before we get out of here. So real quick, we have a $2 super chat from Highlander 001. Thank you so much. He says the FTC has to pay Sarah Bond as
they owe her tuition fees.
Bro, I think Microsoft, as soon as we were done, I was like, whoever pays that woman, double it. Triple it and then double it, because they say
is it just me today. Or does she have a new title every time I see every time? Yo, because like the title she had when they did the showcase a few weeks ago is different than the title I saw in an article. They talked about. I'm just like, she get a promotion like every 5 minutes, which is like, hey, more power to her. I love the sister do it.
And when you hear her speak. When you hear her speak in court, I bet as soon as she got off the stand, a new title was given to her.
Yeah, she about to be field boss by August.
Listen, I was saying, I feel like if she was running things, I don't think Sony would be able to get away with the moves they've been getting away with.
Sir, on that, I don't disagree. Lucius Augustus with a $5 super chat. Thank you, sir. He says, it seems like the FTC is abdicating their all of Sony's responsibility. Sony cannot send a PS5 dev kit to Microsoft, and somehow that's Microsoft's fault. Yeah, that was a very weird one. That was a very, very weird one. And they did that, and then presumably opened the bag of dirty tricks that Sony did, the FTC did, and asked Microsoft about every single one. You're going to make the games a little less quality. You're going to keep a skin away from PlayStation. You're going to do this. Everything Sony kept doing.
His opening argument was, imagine you're a player and you don't have access to a certain skin. Right, or a certain mission in a game.
That's Fortnite.
It was hilarious.
Right now. That's the state. Like I actually have a skin on PlayStation Fortnite, which of course, unfortunately, I can't use the same account I use everywhere else for Fortnite on PlayStation.
Okay,
but and that's because of Sony. So screw you, Sony, for that. But then also, there are PlayStation specific skins that are available on PlayStation that aren't available anywhere else, which is like there are a number of different games, not just Call of Duty, where PlayStation does stuff like that, where there's like you can only
that move slow. You can use that as the move. You can use the Destiny freaking Gjallarhorn for a long time. It was a thing. You could use that. All that exists, and we all know it. And then the FTC lawyer presumes to start his arguments and continue his line of questioning by literally accusing Microsoft of potentially doing that. Even though that's what the person they're representing has been doing for 10 years. It's hilarious. It was hilarious.
Anyway, I do have to roll, and I do have to commend you guys for getting me to talk about this daggone topic again, because I usually hate talking about this topic, but you got me. You got me.
Okay, so before you go, Slow-mo, let me say this thing, and then we'll get to Dark's chat.
Yes.
So the thing what we were saying about the Google witness is they asked him well, who did you consider your competition for Stadia? And he said console and PC.
Yep.
Which again destroys their whole market argument. And if you don't win on, and I see what you did there with the joint. You need to go back to your other.
What are we talking about?
What'd you go? Oh yeah. Okay. Remember, I got you screen grabbed with the Sonic. You know what? I'm gonna make that my pin tweet.
It ain't. You don't see that right now, do you? So don't worry about that. Go ahead.
But the point I was getting at. This is the number one thing the FTC has to win is the market definition, because you narrow the market in order to create something that gives rise to a monopoly. So the smaller you make the market and the less players you have in it, the larger the market share goes. In order for them to have a case, you have to meet a certain threshold of market share with the combined entity. So Microsoft wants to cast as wide a net as possible. That's why they want to include PC and Nintendo using a rule of interchangeability. Again, the judge may not agree with that, but that's what Microsoft says. The FTC wants to narrow it by creating this high performance console market. And that is probably too narrow. So maybe the truth
no such
is
thing as a high performance console market.
Exactly.
When both of these consoles can't do a good number of games at 60 frames per second.
That's right.
You got Final Fantasy 16 dropping down to 720p. You got Starfield at 30 FPS. This is not high performing console. That's like saying the Honda Civic is a high performing vehicle. No, it's not.
Thank you.
But that won't stop people from Honda
Civic. Give it to your daughter on her 16th birthday. It's not a. It's not.
That does not stop the people from Honda Civics from putting them loud ass mufflers to sound like.
So I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I appreciate you bringing that up, Slow Mo. That's the thing I hear every time console people talk about frames. I'm sorry.
All right.
Let's talk about Mr. Joanna Dark. Mr. Joanna Dark with a $5
aspirations and cheap hardware is what you got. I do need to go. Before I go, I wanted to say this real quick. And I don't know, you guys hadn't quite mentioned it too much yet, but the whole thought of them not providing PS6 dev kits on time, I think kind of is counter to them wanting Call of Duty to be parity and equality for Call of Duty. If you don't provide the dev kit on time, you're then now making it difficult to get that done. So that's ridiculous.
Right.
So
and it's a way to pre-sabotage the deal so they can say, look, they're not supporting us, and then they can go cry to the FTC again.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right.
Absolutely.
Now, I do need to leave. I gotta take these kids to see Spider-Man for the third time. So you guys take care. Great show as usual. I really
thank you for being here, sir. Appreciate you being here. It's always great to have you here, sir. Ladies and gentlemen.
And as usual, Sonic sucks.
Oh,
he did slap you though. So what does that say?
Hey, I'm slapping him every day though.
But pause.
No pause. He's getting all of it.
He's getting all of it, he says. Wow. Okay.
Peace out, y'all.
All right. Let me read this super chat. All right. And we're going to round the bottom because it's time for us to go. Slow-mo's early, but we're getting out of here ourselves. Mr. Joanna Dart, $5 super chat. Phil should have pointed out how Chunky Mario and Link have claimed Aloy. And soon, Chucky Sonic. So Nintendo is the real market leader. Everborn, knees please.
Knees please. Ha ha ha. All right. So the other thing,
besides the market definition that they fell into with the what do you call it, the Google Stadia thing, there were a lot of bits of tea that was spilt during this that aren't necessarily related to what we're talking about, but like, hey, by the way, what do you call it, Skyrim is 6 years away or whatever, like that was 5 years plus away. That was a bit of tea that dropped. We almost bought Square Enix 5 times. That was a bit of tea that dropped.
Well, I actually don't know about the Square Enix thing, because what if you look at it, that was the project.
The reason why they're saying that is because it has a V5 next to it. That's what people think it was. fifth time purchase, fifth time attempt.
But what I wonder if those talks were for the Western studios.
Yes. It may have been for Crystal Dynamic.
Yeah. So Jez earlier today sort of pointed that out that it was just for part of the studio, and if that studio doesn't fit into Microsoft at all. So I wouldn't like to see them purchase.
No, but I just think in general it was super interesting, all the tea that has been spilled. Go ahead, everyone.
I do want to say, while I agree Sega is the move, because of how this all played out, I don't know that I would be mad if after taking COD away, they took away Final Fantasy.
Yeah, because you're a malicious person. I understand that, and that's not petty. I understand.
Yeah,
but you know who it might be? It might be Sarah.
I heard that game runs at 720p, so
it does.
I don't really want it.
Well, that's because they don't got 12 teraflops. No, but listen, here's the thing.
Everyone, let's be real. It would run like dog crap on the Xbox.
It would, but Xbox always gets higher resolution while Sony gets the frame rates. So
true.
I don't think it would go down to 720p on the Xbox. The other thing is, there's trustworthiness, right? So there's market definition, right? Is high performance console a market? Is cloud its own market? Are game subscription services their own market? They have to prove those things. And then on top of proving that, they need to prove that Microsoft will have an outsized position. And if they will, then they have to prove that Microsoft's actions so far do not amount to anything, even though these contracts are signed. So they need to point holes in the contract. That's if they can get past the whole trustworthiness piece. And before the trustworthiness piece, they have to get the market definition right. And even if they get through all of that, they have to prove that Microsoft and Activision will be impossible to break apart if the FTC decides to still follow through with their administrative process. So we all know that Microsoft keeps ZeniMax. They have their own HR. They still have their own health insurance. Microsoft is paying the bills, but they're held separately. And we learned that is also the case for Mojang. And we already know, if you follow Microsoft, that is the case for LinkedIn. So they have a history of three very big businesses that they purchased where they just kept them whole. So the judge will have to believe that even though Microsoft did that they will not hold Activision separately. And the FTC's only argument so far is that if they are able to get together, it will be impossible to break them up because they might get rid of the HR or merge the HR departments. This is what they said so far, right? And the judge specifically asked about that. So that she was saying, so you're saying you need this injunction and they won't be able to be broken apart later on if you find that there's some reason. And the only answer they gave was HR departments being merged.
So I do want to track back to what you guys were talking about before, and I didn't want to jump in while Slow-Mo was here because I was conscious that he had to leave, and I do.
Yeah, you definitely
as well,
should cut Slow-Mo off.
It's it's 1 a.m, but so I just completely disagree with the way that he's sort of viewing the market. And
he's a PC guy. You got to understand.
Yeah, I think it's a bit elitist, right? So it is. I think it is a little bit of elitism. There's
talk that talk.
So if you can run it on a mobile phone,
you're gonna make me defend Slow-Mo right now. Stop it. Just
if you can run it on a mobile phone, then it's part of the market. So anything that you can take and deliver the software on, that's part of the market. That's part of your delivery system. If it's part of you getting consumers into your ecosystem, then it becomes a part of your market. That's just
so here's the
split that apart.
Here's the thing, right? Mobile games, like the ones that run on iOS and Android, are not the same games that run on PC and console.
No. But see, what I'm saying to you is if you can deliver them through cloud,
sure,
then that cloud is a delivery system that brings those gamers into your market. That's a way that you can reach out, if you can think of it like a hand, and take those people by the hand and bring them into your ecosystem. And you're doing that through PC, you're doing it through mobile. And now Slow-Mo said something that I was like, that's not right. Like he's saying there's a lot of stuff on PC that's just not on console. It doesn't mean it couldn't be on console and vice versa.
But there's a lot of games on PlayStation that aren't on Xbox. That doesn't make PlayStation a different market than Xbox.
Exactly that.
Hold on. I will defend his honor just once, because there are games on PC that are not built for console and could not be for console. Just couldn't work.
And there are games that are built with PS5 dev kits using all the PS5 stuff that would have to completely be rebuilt if you wanted it on Xbox.
Exactly.
I don't agree with that, but continue. I don't. Do
the same tools and compilers exist on the Xbox that are on the PlayStation?
No.
Yes.
No, but that's because you're comparing two consoles, right? The common denominator is PC. You're right, 100% when you're talking consoles, because they build them bespoke to do that thing. PC is the common denominator that brings all the boys to the yard, so you can't make that the same assertion on PC. You can make the same assertion on console. If it's the common
denominator that makes it the same market, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, exactly that. If you're saying you're
doing some FTC arguments right now. What are you doing?
I'm not saying that what you're saying is not true, but I think you might be being slightly hyperbolic. You're saying it couldn't be built for a console?
Well, no. What I mean by it couldn't be built was, my first thought was, like, for example, like a game like Star Citizen, right? It couldn't be built. It's barely being built for most PCs, right? It is a specific subset of hardware that can run that thing, and you could never get that to run on a console unless you built a $50,000 console. Right, even PCs, you have to build a really big rig just to get that thing.
Yeah, but again, these actually are FTC arguments. You're defining the market by the hardware instead of the content that people actually use. It.
Hardware, and if you define it by the content, software. If you define it by the content, then yes, that market does traverse, because you can get it in other places. Right? It just depends on how you define it. If you choose to define it by the content, then yes, absolutely, wherever the content is found is the market.
You could get Star Citizen to run on a console with, say, cloud. You could possibly get that to happen. You could run some of it natively and stream in a lot of it.
I'll give you that. Stream the rest of it and then natively to the console. Yes. Yeah. Just like you got Flight Sim to run an Xbox VCR. 100%. Yes.
And there's ways and means. Yeah.
Risk it. Let me tell you what's actually happening here, because I know how these PC dudes work.
Oh God, are we at the part of the show where you got nothing good to say, so you're just going to be stupid? Come on now.
What the pushback is these PC guys?
Oh, here we go.
They look down on the console people, and they don't want to be considered as the same. They're like, oh, I'm better than this. Like you said, it's this elitism. So
for the record, I probably play more console than Everborn Saga does. But continue.
As soon as they heard, oh, you're comparing PC to console, we can't have that.
Yeah, but you do have to look. You do have to consider the market in the content that it had. That's how you look at the market, and delivering that. The hardware is and he nailed it. Like that CMA judge, the hardware is just a delivery system. Cloud is just a delivery system. It's how you bring the content to the people. It's exactly the same as DVD. Would you argue that DVDs on a disc are different to a streamed in movie? Like, is that a different market? It's not a different market. It's the same market.
It's just a delivery method. No, I agree with you. I do. Look, I don't care if it's compared to PC as long as the definition is defined. Like, if we're talking about content and how we get it to the people, 100%. But if you define it by hardware, then there are the differences. As long as the FTC is talking about, as long as the level playing field, just like we were talking about the AAA conversation, where what A's that we're talking about, like, as long as we define it by content, 100%, I'm with you guys.
You just hit the nail on the head. Like, you literally, you just said it. If we're talking about how we get the content to the people,
yes, then that's it. That's it. I'm in 100% agreement with you guys, 100%. But as we've discussed, there's arguments that some people are defining that based on the hardware, which there's an argument there. I don't necessarily agree with that argument.
FTC's argument, right?
I don't necessarily agree with that argument. I agree that the hardware, for a long time now, the hardware has become a means to an end, right? The end being you getting your content. right? And that's exactly what Xbox is doing now, right? They're calling Xbox basically the platform, and the box a means to an end. The end being getting you to your Xbox content, right? Same thing on PC, same thing in cloud, means to an end. The end being you get your content. And if that's what we're describing, yeah, that hardware is democratized. Anywhere you can use to get to where you're going, the going being the content, that's what matters, right? So on that, I think we're all in agreement here. I think we're all in agreement. Okay. Do any dissenting views among us?
No, Slow-Mo's gone.
Okay then. No, I was waiting for Everborn Saga to try and make some hay out of PC-ness or whatever. Clearly, I guess that's not the case. Okay.
No. Well,
we're at the end. We should close this up. Go ahead, Everborn. You get the last word.
No, again, I can't answer. Like, my answer to the question is you define it by the content, and there's a legal standard for that. Now, but the question is, whose legal standard will the judge go by? Because if we're just saying it's the video game market, right? Or are we saying specifically there is a console market or separate from a PC market? Again, it behooves Microsoft to make the market as wide as possible. They would say they include mobile as well. We all know that that's ridiculous. And the reason we would say that's ridiculous is because the content that you run on mobile is different from what you run on PC and console. But the content between
not every
PC
console.
Sure.
Nintendo is probably you can run most Nintendo games.
Yeah.
Right. But the content on PC and console is largely interchangeable. You can say, I want to play this game on PC for whatever reason. It's still that you're choosing between playing it on a console, right? Or playing that content on the PC. So we'll see which way the judge goes.
So let me get this super chat before we get out of here. Rob Dadon 202, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. Appreciate you being here and being a part of this conversation. He says, why can't the market be any game that takes your time to play, no matter the mechanism
of the delivery
and or / deliverable of said game to a particular mechanism? That is
a very
Microsoft's
broad
argument.
market definition.
That's true, but let me play devil's advocate with that, okay? Just real quickly, because you could equivocate this to say something like the car market, right? So you're selling cars, okay? Now you're probably not selling Lamborghinis to the same people that are buying Honda Civics,
true,
right? So you could split that market into high-end performance cars and cars. Realistically, they are the same market, though, right? You're still selling cars to people.
You're still selling cars. Yeah.
And that's what you're doing. So, I mean,
that's a good analogy. That's a good analogy. I like that. That's good.
With any market, you can break it down to its smaller subset of parts. But at the end of the day, it's a car. It's the same market.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, I hear you. Absolutely. You are definitely right in that. And that's a good way to continue to frame it, because I feel like when it's not framed in real world parlance that folks can understand, it kind of gets highbrow and folks kind of lose the thread and don't get what we're talking about here. But the way you're describing it is absolutely perfect. But okay, I think we're at the end of it. There is more conversation to be had, and there's more to be discussed, because I do feel like there's still a lot of tea that's spilt out of this stuff. How many people, how many potential we didn't even talk about
just really quick, I was just looking at the legal definition in terms of antitrust and how you define a market. This is based on the FTC's rules.
Sure. But of course, we know the FTC is full of crap. That's why we're here.
Sure. But the judge is going to look at these things.
Yeah. What's the definition?
Their definition of a market is you are a market if your customers are subject to anything you do in terms of price changes. Meaning, if I cannot go someplace else to get this thing, if you rapidly increase the price, then that's how you define your market. So if what we would have to say is, if Microsoft raises their prices to $100, do I have other options to go to? Can I go to Sony?
Yeah.
Can I go to Switch? Can I go to PC?
Yeah.
To play.
No, I hear you. I hear you. That's an interesting definition.
But those are different games, though, right? We're talking about to play the same games.
The same game.
Do I
Where
have
would you
other
go?
options?
Yep. Yeah, you got remote. You've got remote play. You could remote.
And again, as Lucius said, it's handhelds are making this conversation very, very, very murky, right? As more handhelds become a normal factor in the equation, it's now making that mobile definition a bit more wishy-washy because they call it mobile because, it's your phone and it takes it with you. What if ROG Ally becomes part and parcel of your mobile experience? Is that now considered mobile? Because it is a mobile device you take with you. It is a PC, but it's still a mobile device. The whole thing is very wishy-washy and murky. It's an interesting conversation to be had, for sure. For sure. The last piece that I say that we hadn't talked about, and we won't talk about, but I think it's interesting just to kind of leave it here because that I have a feeling will have ramifications. We did hear, speaking of tea that was spilt, we did hear that Microsoft almost bought Zynga, but then they decided later on that the stuff that Zynga offered wasn't good enough for them, so they gave it to their homie, Everborn, you know their homie, and then moved on to bigger fish. Yes, that's interesting, right? Strauss bought it, and people were like, "Oh, okay, that's interesting." It looks like Microsoft went, "Nah, right." This is why I wanted to bring this. This is why I wanted to bring this up to you, Everborn. It seems like Strauss is always seemingly in pocket. And based on the conversation and what Phil said at this hearing, it looks like they were looking to buy, and then Microsoft went, "Nah, this is not rich enough for our blood. Hey, Strauss, you want this? Sure, I'll take it." And that's how it went. Very weird, right? It's very interesting. Like Zynga was kind of passed around by the homies a little bit. So it seems.
I was gonna say it, but you said it.
Right? It seems that way. Like,
listen, and Sega just got Rovio for them, so you know.
So there you go. There will be most likely a lot more coming out of all this stuff. While the ABK stuff is interesting to some and not to everybody, I hear you. But I would venture that folks, if you find this even somewhat interesting, I would go and check out those sources because a lot of information has come out about while this is happening. A lot of tangentially non-related information has been added into the mix as well, and some of that is super, super interesting. But I guess we're going to leave it here. We're at 3:30. We're about at the end. We really appreciate, like, it seems like we've been podcasting forever. We had Mr. Paris Lilly on. The other slanderous one, Mr. Slow-Mo Backslap, joined us. And of course, we have a great guest here, able to join us at 2:30 in the morning, Mr. Risk It for the Biscuit. Thank you so much for being here. Tell the people where they can find you and where they can keep up with the Xbox Infinite podcast, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. Just you can see my name there. Just type in Risk It for the Biscuit on YouTube and you will find me. We go live 8 p.m. every Friday EST. It is early in the morning over here. Absolutely.
Oh, we apologize, man. This is why you don't come on this show.
See, I was laying in.
We feel bad for you.
I was laying in bed and I was like, "Oh, I got to respond to this, man. This AAA conversation. I got to be in this." And then Paris jumped on. And then I was like, "Oh, I got to get in this as well." Yeah. Talk to Paris, get his opinions, have a go there.
Yeah.
And then Slow-Mo. I didn't get a chance to sort of come back at that. I do want to have a conversation with him about this whole how he's defining PC because it is very elitist. It is very highbrow.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me on the show, man. I was literally laying in bed listening. It is a great show. So I appreciate you guys having me on anytime you do. So
thank you guys for being here in the chat as well. Michelle Alexandria say, great show. It's pretty niche. Absolutely. And Mr. Everborn Saga, not to be outdone, always here, always putting in that work, always making sure that people understand all the craziness that is ABK, sir. Where can folks find you? Where can they keep up with all your stuff?
You can find me in these Zoom meetings this week as this trial goes through. And I might have to take off for them closing arguments because this is it, folks. If our national nightmare is about to be over. The closing arguments are Thursday, and Judge Corley will decide in about a week or so, and that's it. So
thank goodness.
I hope everybody's ready for this thing to be over, and let's go. Anyway, I gotta run. So
yes,
that was my outro.
Indeed.
See you guys next week.
Absolutely. For the man, Paris Lilly, for Everborn Saga, for Risk It for the Biscuit, and the man who is not here, Slow Mo Backslap. It has been a great time chatting with you guys. Great chat. Lucius Augustus is in here, Dorian Gray, Mr. freaking John Wolf, Webb, freaking King Webb. So many great conversations being had in the chat. We loved it. It was great. We always do this. This is what we're here for. This is why we enjoy having this show. Check us out again next week. If you want more slander, but a premium different topic, join myself and Mr. John Wolf on Monday nights for the Gamers Playground. We'll be talking more PC specific stuff. But it's always as great as it is here, always introspective, always fun, not trying to be all the PCMR ridiculousness. It's more to bring more people into the tent, as it were. So until next week, have a great time. We hit some great numbers this week. Thank you guys so much for the continued support, and we'll see you guys next week. Peace.
Nice to be in orbit.